project.
Okay.
We've been doing emergency management. Taking Mr. Carl off and adding me as last. Part of the board this year.
Okay.
To just make sure I got that right.
It's different than the other one?
For each project, on each project.
Yes, sir.
And then this one here, we submitted, and they sent it back because the superintendent can't sign it, the board chair has to sign it. And this is the actual grant. So just do it there. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, did you have a chance to check on my other thing?
I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually started on it. I've got everything tracked down. I've got names.
Did you know he wasn't?
Ron's been out. He's had enough. About that. I've already got the student's name, got parents' name, got address. All I got to do is talk to him, and then let's see what the options are. But realistically, just letting you know, we got them all in town too. They're everywhere, and so I can't promise that they can move the stop. Is that just for his kids or all the other kids?
All the other kids on
Yeah, so we can take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I haven't forgot you.
Okay.
Howdy.
Hello. I'm not gonna say that.
What's that?
I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
that. Did you pray with my sleep last week?
I did.
How will you do prayer of black sleep for me? Thank you.
Mildred?
No, mine.
COVID.
Huh?
County has COVID. Yeah, but if you get carried away, definitely will be making eye contact with us. It's actually, that'd be the chair's place to put a stop to it. All she has to do is nod to Joe. Joe will remove him.
He's not going to do that.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not going to do that tonight.
He apologized to me. He
Okay,
can't talk
good.
bad about it.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Well, he thought this meeting was another school board meeting, and he was wanting to address that issue. And I told him it wasn't. I said, this meeting is about school board meeting you're talking about is next week. He gave me his number.
You should have told him we've already had that
My
meeting.
younger days.
He had his chance in the limelight.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way. I just told him this wasn't the meeting. That would be next week.
Well, he carries on like that again. All Teresa has to do is give the word, and he's out of here.
No, I think he did.
That'll be fine.
A little bit of his response, even though it was inappropriate, I understand that for things that he's gone through and done.
There's just better ways
7
to
minutes.
handle it.
I just told him there wasn't anybody sitting on the other side of that table that wanted anything back.
Right.
Yeah. What did this? What did anything? Yeah, right.
Thank you. You should just appreciate that.
Oh, what?
You don't want to sit next to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
I did.
Thank you.
Do you do that? Did you send things out that I sent you? I think I did.
I don't know what the FID number is
Have any inside.
on this.
referrals. And
That's what to call them.
nothing else is.
More
There's
with that
three past her house, and I've got an
federal identification number, ID number.
I don't know how much.
Online.
to get.
Text Greg. He probably has that. What is that for?
This is for that generator grant.
Vince working. I never
Federal identification.
I
What
did
is
the first year.
ID?
put money up. I do all my stuff in there.
Yes, yes, Miss Joanne.
I think there's a certain demographic that does, like an age group that does.
See, they have it's 37.
She keeps calling. I think some people do. I mean, a couple of people have said things.
She keeps calling me. I probably will up toward the end.
Everybody, okay,
Thank you.
Joanne, that's you.
No.
Get ID number.
I got somebody else.
You know.
Yes, sir.
When I was talking to him, message to everybody, he wasn't here, so I just gave him your No, I mean, I gave him your phone number, so he could just call you to talk to you.
He didn't. No, he didn't.
I did. I did. It was all good.
Did you make any changes from
Yes, plenty. Well.
How you doing, Miss Joanne?
We took what? We're asking about the new program. So I added all this.
Along.
Yeah.
Which was their questions. Hopefully we're gonna answer a lot. So I'll go through that first. And then, the other changes, I'll point out mostly about the face mask. A couple other little things.
I wouldn't think he would forget this.
Well, they have a thing on the side of it.
What is it, huh? How we look? See that? See me thumbs up? Maybe he got hung up at work.
There, that's what I was
Talk to
meaning.
her staff, possible
I'll do it again, then it'll come up.
just for the city.
There you go.
Which was a hybrid. They're still working for that. They don't know. How to do it, but you know, that's what teachers. She'll report back. and let us know if they're interested. Teachers kind of don't make the decision.
Yes.
Say, we need to offer a fourth or not. I don't understand the districts
Is he
that are
just
moving
reading
their,
It's different.
they're moving in 2 weeks. Is
Kind of
that,
plan.
they're hoping to change the numbers of Florida. I don't know what it is.
See, he made.
You hearing?
Did you say that earlier? Did you say that?
He wants me out too.
No.
We would like some extra couple of weeks to have more being trained for the teachers on the virtual platform.
You don't say. You mean he had something to say?
We have to go. The kids will have to go 2 weeks later in June.
He'll get up here. He probably got in 2 paragraphs or something, 2 pages of stuff he can read.
Is what we have.
No, that's the updated. Doesn't matter. It's outdated. That's the new one.
Oh.
I called old Johnny Bullard.
2 of those.
He just got over having COVID. He
We have
sounded
tried.
like he was sick. He's man. Yeah, he told us.
Or
Told him I lived in
we've thought about one
I
Wednesday.
got him and my sister and
He got it.
Parents and the child care.
There's really just a number.
I think at the end of the day,
They do. It needs to be.
at some point, We all get it. Or if we hadn't had it, right? You remember when I came from Tampa, I think I had it then. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's kind of like, you know,
where they want to go.
if you got blood, you kind of immune to it. Well, I O negative. That's it. So I'm immune to it. That's it.
Mr. Samuels in the second quarter, y'all ready?
We're still talking.
It's all right. I'm good. I'd like to call this school board workshop to order July 16th, 2020. Mr. Samuels is going to lead us in prayer and flag salute.
Heavenly Father, just thank you for another day. Continue to bless us, and thank you for your love and your grace and your mercy. And thank you for the opportunity for us to come together and make decisions on behalf of our district and community for the future, for the safety of our students and staff. And we just thank you for everything you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to turn this workshop over to Mr. Shaman. Prior to that, I just want to say that we're going to take the advice of a very wise teacher who made a suggestion at the end of last meeting, and we are going to let Mr. Shaman present the plan, and then we will take questions. Okay? So, Mr. Shaman.
Since we only got to the first section last time, and we're not scheduling another workshop, so if you didn't bring a pillow and blanket, you're on your own out there. But thank you all for being here tonight. We are streaming live. I believe we're on. Yes, Dr. G, we're on. Okay. We had 3 more meetings this past week after last week's workshop. So we've had some other revisions to the plan. I'm not going to read the plan because all of you can probably read. We have copies up there on the table. I'll give some highlights of some sections before I take questions. And if you're ready, we'll get started. We still have 3 choices: traditional, face-to-face, brick and mortar for the students, my district virtual, and our new HELO program, or you can call it HILO, Hardy Innovative Learning Opportunity, where they will be enrolled in the school district. They will have specific teachers that are part of our school district, and they'll be able to, if need be, because of COVID-19, they would be able to bounce back and forth on a quarterly basis. If, for instance, student contracts the virus or somebody in the family, they're quarantined. If they start in traditional school, after 3 weeks, somebody in their family tests positive, they're quarantined ordinarily. You'd be home and you might get some work. But this way, we're going to enroll that student in the HELO program, and they will have the same teacher. That's our plan. With the same work, same requirements. It'll be more fluid situation for the family and the student. So thank you for your input. If you were here last week, there were a lot of questions on the HELO program. So I'll refer to the last 2 pages. We tried to define and answer as many questions as we could about the program. And again, thank you for the input, because the concerns that we heard were the same ones we heard about our virtual program in the spring. So I will go through here quickly. Again, I'm not going to read it verbatim. For attendance, unlike the spring, if you have a kid in high school that likes to sleep till 11, that's done with, that's out the window. So if school starts at the high school at 8:30 and you're in this program, You have to log in at 8:30. We haven't set up the parameters, but pretty much if you don't sign in, log in, within 15 minutes, you're going to be tardy. And after another certain amount of time, you're going to be absent. So if you expect to do your work in the afternoon and the evening, you're going to be in school, you're going to be in school. And if you can't handle being up for 8:30 class as a high school student, then there's two other options for you. Grades were concerned. They're going to be held to the same standards. That was another issue in the spring with our virtual program. You'll have the same work, and you're expected to fulfill the work as much as possible. Fidelity declaration, those are big words I found. Were kids cheating in the spring? We discussed that. Yeah, I did notice on Focus, kids that were perennial D students were all of a sudden straight A's. I wanted to credit our amazing teaching staff, but I think there was more to it. And I'm not saying parents were helping, but maybe an older brother or somebody else or a friend. They're going to have to sign a pact with us. Part of it's going to be on the honor system. But with testing and assessments, we're going to be having a testing center. One of them is going to be here next door in the training center, and they'll have to sign up to take their tests, quizzes, and assessments. So we know they're not going to be able to cheat unless they're really, really good at it. If they do it here or another testing center at one of the schools or another building in the district. Teacher contact hours, again, God bless our teaching staff, because it was Saturday and Sunday and 11 at night, and kids were emailing, and the teachers, for some reason, were up replying. Well, that's not going to happen. A lot of our teachers have families and they have responsibilities, and unlike a lot of the kids, they're not up at midnight, they're already crashed. So the contact hours will be set, probably, for instance, elementary, it'll be 2 to 3 when the day's over. And teachers can work that out on individual basis. We'll have some urgent moments from kids. I forgot my assignment. We'll do that, but not Saturday night at 2 a.m. that you're going to be emailing your teacher and being upset when she doesn't email you back. We're not asking our teachers to do that. That's a little much. Tech concerns, we're going to take care of. Everybody's going to get a Chromebook that needs it. We have enough, Todd? The other Todd? Any Todd that'll answer me right now?
Yes, yes, we do. Yes, sir.
How many do we have right now in the district, Mr. Markle?
Home student devices, easily 6,000.
Should be enough. We got 5,200 kids, so we should be all right. Teaching staff will be our teachers. That's a benefit. Our teachers know the kids, and the kids know the teachers, and parents usually know the teachers pretty well. I won't go into the misuse of school district technology. We won't have a problem with that. Other than the MIS department does a great job of monitoring. So we have that at school sometimes. But if kids get on some website that they shouldn't be on, that you would be embarrassed if you're a dad and you want to kill your kid, we're going to detect that. If it becomes chronic, they'll be removed from the program and they'll be back to school or whatever other option they want to do. If you're in this program, we talked about breakfast and lunch for the kids. So there will be a designated time and location at each school that you can still pick up your meals. We're not going to starve them. All special activities, extracurricular, they'll be allowed to participate in. We have some more information coming on special needs, but if you have an IEP, if you have a 504, you have accommodations, we're going to, of course, honor that. We're legally bound to that, and we will work with each student and family. And then the best thing is, like I just mentioned, it's pretty fluid about going between the HELO program and brick and mortar. If we start school with a high number of COVID-19 cases, as we're getting right now, your student can start at home in this program. And then at the end of the 9 weeks, things are better. You want them to come back, they can come back. It's a quarterly, 9 weeks requirement. We're doing that because we can't have kids changing every 3 days. So that's some of the highlights, questions y'all had last week.
Mr. Shaman, can I ask some questions, or do we want to?
No, no.
How do we want to do that? I don't want to interrupt if you're going to be going into something else.
Well, I work for the school board, so.
Well, I understand,
You
but I
know,
wanna
you can
make
ask
this
whatever you want,
efficient.
whenever you want. And you're Paul Samuels.
That doesn't matter.
Okay.
Ask my wife.
No, go ahead.
In regards to the HELO teachers,
Yes,
will they be strictly HELO, or will there be a combination, or do we know yet?
that's right.
Okay.
Still working on that. We're not sure. You know, we're looking at elementary particularly. For instance, you know, 1 3rd grade teacher at each school is going to be the HELO teacher, or just have all the teachers doing that. We're not really sure. We're still discussing that, and y'all can comment on that too. I think thing is, if you requested a teacher, you know, you may not get that teacher because we're going to have 1 at grade level. The elementary. Secondary is different. If you have 1 chemistry teacher, you know, that's going to be it. But the elementary level, we're still trying to work through that. And again, we're taking comments on that.
And I know we're still waiting on parents to turn in their
Well, that's the other thing.
paperwork as well.
We
So-
may have 1 in Bowling Green in 1st grade doing this program, and in 2nd grade we might have 50. We don't know till everybody registers.
Okay. Okay.
I keep going. Okay, so here's an issue came up yesterday. Under general safety precautions, I'm going to go through these sections. Water fountains will be closed. No, they're going to be open. No, they're going to be closed. So we're going to close the water fountains, but we're installing the water bottle dispensers at all the schools. Some schools have them, but we're going to install additional ones. There'll be at least 1 or 2 at every school. So the kids bring the water bottles. We thought about, well, let's leave the water fountains, but a school employee could supervise that and run the water fountain. I haven't found anybody volunteering to stand for the entire kindergarten class at Wauchula Elementary to keep that thing running so we can get everybody their water, you know. And so we're going to do that, and we're spending some money, which fortunately we have with this grant. So everybody's going to get the water bottle filling stations, if you've seen them. I see them in airports more often now, and seems to be kind of popular. So we may eventually even just, everybody brings their bottle and we get rid of the water fountains, because sometimes they're not very sanitary. And kids are, you know, they're trying to get the water and they're licking the thing and kissing the thing. And it's, I love 5-year-old kindergarten kids because they're
So
fun.
the student will bring their own bottle.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not supplying the water bottles.
Right. I'm just-
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But we can find some. We've been asked by the governor to close the school system on August 18th and November 3rd for the election. So, we're not doing that because a lot of schools are polling places. We are not. And if we're not in school that day, we got to make the 2 days up, which nobody's going to be happy about. You can vote from 7 to 7. You can do early voting, or I'm doing this the first time. I got on my iPad, click, click, click. They're going to send me the ballot. I mail it in. I don't even have to go. So do a mail-in. That's pretty easy. But we're going to be open. Face masks. Okay, so here we go. Back and forth. They're required. No, they're not. This is what these meetings we have every day are about. They're not going to be required. No, which way do we go? So here's the latest, greatest decision. They're going to be encouraged and highly recommended and required, but only in common areas when you're coming to school and when you're leaving. If you're in the hallway, but in the classroom, it's going to be up to the individual teacher. Because again, my little 5-year-olds, the teacher's going to spend the whole day fighting with the kids about the face masks, and you're not going to get anything done. And it's August and it's hot. And if you go to recess, And the kids have to wear the face mask. They got to wear it out there, going out there. But once they go out there, the coaches, they're going to spread them out and they don't have to wear it. So it's going to be common sense. Everybody's going to use their head in the classrooms. If we're social distancing, we don't expect anybody. I'll tell you, I'm not wearing a face mask 8 hours all day. I wouldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And if we have lots of kids with asthma, and if they just get a common cold, we're going to force that. We're going to have a lot of time spent on face masks and not educating children. So in common areas, come to the school. You walk into the media center, fine. But once you sit down, we're social distancing, not required. If you want your child to wear that face mask all day, or if you're an employee and you want to wear the face mask all day, absolutely fine. But that's going to be up to you. I'm not. Let's see.
Will any logos or anything be allowed on the face mask? Or-
It's going to be part of the dress code. We talked about that last week. Part of the dress code, as far as the face mask, teachers, administration will do that.
Okay.
You know, if you're a Gator fan, wear a Gator mask. Seminole fan, wear a Seminole mask. But if we get into the politics and some other issues right now, we don't want kids arguing about that. So we get a design or a solid color. I mean, that's the biggest rage right now. So just, we don't want a controversy. It's like, you know, if you can't wear something on your shirt at school, don't wear it on a face mask. And they have them everywhere. You can go on Amazon. You can go to CVS. My daughter ordered some from Vera Bradley, so you can get the real fancy ones.
Will the district have some available, or is that something we're just leaving up to
FEMA is sending us 15 face masks for every employee in the district.
for employee? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the highlights. So you can take a few minutes, read through that. You come on up to the podium if you have any questions. School board, do you have any other questions right now?
I would like to ask something. If we have a lot of students in the junior high and high school classrooms where they can't be spread out too much, I don't know if you discussed this in the task force.
Mhm.
Could we possibly, have desk shields or something if they're really crowded?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We don't have the funds. They're very expensive. They're not practical. It's gonna be tough for the teachers and the kids, but we're working it out where we're gonna social distance. And I'm pretty confident we can, because if we have even 20% of our kids go virtual, it's 20% of the kids out of the classroom.
Right. So when will we know how many students will be?
When everybody signs up,
So we don't.
we have no idea right now. We did the survey, as every district has, most districts. What people indicated, they may change their mind between now and the start of school in 3 weeks based on the COVID-19 numbers, what the state's doing. How it is just in Hardy County, our numbers have increased. So we think we can social distance. Some classes will be easier than others,
Right.
but the shields are, we've looked.
Very expensive.
We're getting probably, I'd say 200 to 300 vendor emails a day plus phone calls. There's a lot of people going to make a lot of money off COVID-19, but they're not going to do it with us. We're buying what we need to have, but those shields, some districts are doing it, some are not. We're placing them in some areas, but we can't put it on every desk for however many students are going to be here.
What about the time given to the teacher or teachers that are chosen to be the helo teacher? Will they just be doing straight helo, or will they be doing in classroom and out?
We're still debating. That's
Okay.
the last question we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out the best way to go. Again, if y'all have any input on that, particularly teachers, we're not sure which way to head on that.
Are we gonna have temperature check?
Spot checks, we figured out the high school, if we checked every student there, it will take us 11 hours and 45 minutes. And they're only there 7.5 hours. It's not possible. We're going to spot check on buses. We're going to spot check kids coming in and out and spot check on classrooms. But to do every kid in the district, it's going to take forever, especially junior high and high school. We could do it at Bowling Green in about 3 hours.
Will they have a little small?
Yeah, we've
electronic
ordered 5 for the elementaries and 10 for the junior high and the high school.
They only take about a minute. If that.
About 45
if they punch
seconds.
the button.
About 45 seconds.
We do it at work.
We've had some, hey, Teresa Hall, you out there? Are you hiding too? We have our summer school program, and Teresa can fill you in. So we decided, we're going to do every student in our summer school program here this summer. But since this is new, we ran into a couple things. You want to share?
We did. We had about 45 students the first day, so they were lined up outside. And it happened. They were all lined up really close together, so they were not social distancing. So after we realized that, then we had to work through some things. So then we started checking them as they came in and getting them in their groups and just trying to get them all checked at that point. It just took a lot of time and we just didn't get in and get started. And so that's why we thought that, and also, we checked every one of them every day, and I don't think we had anyone the whole time. I don't know if we have or not. I don't think that it's happening. So we figured if we do swap checks and we do maybe this bus today or that bus tomorrow or this classroom today, we can get most of them, and we'll also offer our teachers and everybody knows symptoms, and we'll be looking for children.
What I wanted to say would be a huge asset and help is if the parents, I know with me, with what I do for my work and working in the medical field, I do it for my family and the people I'm around. I take my own temperature in the morning and at night, and that can be done at home. And that's a huge part right there that a parent can say, oh, it's 100.4. Don't send them to school. Make contact with the school and eliminate that step altogether. But it's a small thing to do. It doesn't take a couple seconds to take your temperature twice a day, but it is a large part of checking you in the morning and at night to be secure that something hasn't changed during the day.
However,
Right.
we get a lot of students that are sick, and the parents say, go on to school, and then as soon as you get there, go to the nurse.
Yeah.
Or your teacher will take care of it, right? I mean, if you're teaching, you've done this, you experience it. But within 3 days, you know your kids, and you'll know as soon as they walk in the door if they're not feeling good or not. But unfortunately, we have kids that come, and the parents send them to us, and they're sick, and then they go right to the nurse. And we take on that responsibility.
That's the other thing that when we had during our summer program, if we noticed a child that had maybe congestion or was coughing or sneezing, we would, at that point, take them to our containment room or confinement room or COVID room. We have a little room.
Quarantine room.
Quarantine room. Yeah, quarantine room. And so we would take them there and talk to them. And at least we did that. We will say we did that.
I have another question about face on mask. I know it's hard to cover everything because I know it's going to be if something comes up and we take care of it. But what if a student shows up without a mask or a parent won't bring a mask if they, they need it or whatever it may be? I mean, we'll deal with it at that point.
We're going to have some masks.
Okay. I figured we would.
We'll get some masks.
Well, actually, the health department has already supplied us with some,
Okay.
and then we'll have that stash for those situations.
I'm sure I can find some somewhere.
Yep.
We'll get some, and we're still looking for some donations for masks.
Okay.
If I give you the mask, it's going to be a Miami Hurricane mask, so that's,
I'm not wearing a
just
Miami
deal with
Hurricane
that, Gator people. Question time.
I have a question on the virus, if the health department can answer that question. I hear conflicting, is it airborne or is it not airborne?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm
Yep.
Dr. Joy Jackson. I'm the director of the health department here in Polk and in Hardy County. So yes, it's felt that there's the method of transmission is person to person. The most prevalent method is through droplets. And we all spread droplets when we talk, when we shout, when we sing. But there's also airborne, which is also potentially a risk. And then there's surfaces. So if while I'm talking, if I put virus on this table and Brenda touches the table and touches her eye, then she can contract it that way. So yes, there is evidence that it is also airborne.
Okay. I just asked that because, we can do what we can do, at some point, but so.
Yeah.
I know we can't guarantee, as you mentioned before, the risk is there.
But the ratio of kids 18 and under getting this virus is not as high as older adults or, of course, adults that have underlying issues. But even though our cases have gone higher, which is, I understand with testing, our deaths have not climbed. So is that not saying that maybe younger people are getting this virus and they're being able to recover and you're not having as many fatalities?
Correct.
Okay.
What we found in the numbers for Hardy as of today is Hardy has had 649 cases. Of those, 109 have been in kids under the age of 18. So our average age, or I'm sorry, not average, but median age for residents of Hardy right now is 39. So we varied from a high of 55 down to certain days it's as low as 18, but those will be days when there's fewer tests. So we're on a sawtooth based on when tests are conducted, which are predominantly at the health department. They're testing all day, 2 days a week, but people could be tested out of county too, and they're still attributed to our county. So there is a bit of a sawtooth. But the age range does vary, and we found across the state that 3 months ago, a lot of the cases were in people, over the age of 50. Median age was around 55, and it's dropping in many places around. And those people do tend to do better. I think all are susceptible to the virus, maybe less so in children, and there's potentially a physiologic reason why the virus doesn't really inhabit children as much. But when we talk about risk, we're talking about vulnerable populations as far as a risk of having an adverse effect of either death or requiring hospitalization or ICU stay. And those are our older folks and those with chronic health conditions.
Well, and in looking at it from what you're saying, that, with our deaths flatlining or going down, we are being able to protect the vulnerable, which is our older ones in the nursing homes and things like that. And not looking at the number of cases, but looking at the fatality number of cases is what I was trying to say, is that it's just showing that younger, more healthier people are getting it and being able to recover. And I'm not saying that to make a statement to say, oh, I'm trying to justify why you open a school. I got babies of my own that teach. And I worry about my kids just like parents are worrying about their little kids being there. And mine are teachers. But I don't know. I firmly believe that the mental aspect of this and the development aspect of this for our kids is just as important as their physical development. And we can't lose sight of that, of the psych issue parts of it and the developmental part of opening, which I don't think we fought opening. I just think everybody wants to be are we as secure as what we can be? And I think by the choices given, you're giving those parents that choice.
If I may make one comment, the best thing we can do in Hardy County to protect our schools is to control the spread in the community. This entire community is the cocoon around our schools. So if our behaviors and what we do in the community does not support the public health things that we all should do, and that's the social distancing, masks in public, staying home if you're sick, avoiding mass gatherings, and that includes family gatherings. If we don't all individually commit ourselves to doing that, we will be more likely to have cases in the schools.
Thank you.
I have a question in regards to, I guess we're calling them the COVID rooms. Is that what we're calling them? If someone.
Quarantine rooms.
Quarantine rooms,
Yeah.
okay.
But feel free to use any terminology you'd like.
So if a student goes into this room and someone will be with them during this time, okay,
Yes.
until a parent arrives or till they're with them all day doing work or whatever. I know we're working through this.
Right.
So,
But we're hoping we call immediately, and which we do anyway when the kid comes in
right,
there
when the
usually.
kid's sick, right.
And you need to pick up your child. We're just hoping the parents react quicker. And we think they will because there's a chance it's going to be COVID-19. So I think people will be a little more concerned.
Okay. And that individual will be just staff, or will it be a nurse?
Could be a nurse, it just depends on the school and
Okay,
who we have available.
okay,
In some, there'll be a separate room, and some it's going to be in one room, but they're going to be cordoned off. There'll be a curtain or something else to separate them from the other kids that come in.
okay. Uh-oh.
Even with the mask, I know who you are,
Can't hide that.
but nice try.
I hear you saying that you're working through quite a bit of this. Can you give me a typical day of a student who is going into the high-low program or HELO program?
Like maybe a 12-year-old in junior high?
Like a seventh grader, yes.
Okay. Okay, Teresa, you're on.
And I guess my question is, I heard you say what elementary would do, but I didn't hear you say what, secondary. And I guess my question is, because when I'm looking at for my grandson, I'm thinking, okay, you have 7 classes. Will he have his 7 teachers, or will there be 1 or 2 teachers?
No, they're going to have a complete set of teachers. That's not going to change.
Okay. The next question
At the junior high, now there might be some classes at the junior high that we're not going to be able to do virtually. And we're working through that too. Particularly high school. I don't know if is he going in 6th grade or did you say 7th? Is he in the band?
He tried, I said no. We gotta wait.
Man, I thought we're family.
Well, we are, but my
Okay.
question is because, I was the teacher doing from March
Yeah.
into May. And I was the one that was sitting by in the chair while he was at the computer in the office. And so I was thrilled to death when I heard them say that, you're going to be able to log in with your teacher, your classroom to get that instruction. Because some of what I saw was you go on, you classroom meet, you listen to the teacher, and then they're gone, and then we started with the YouTubing and that type of thing. So I thought, well, yeah, this is going to work when we do the live streaming or whatever else. So is that what we're going to have?
Little different.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a big part of our discussion yesterday. Teresa's going to hate me after all this. But thank you, dear.
Again, that's going to depend on each school, how it's set up and how it works at that school site. Some teachers will live stream some lessons. They will possibly do a Google Classroom. They might videotape and then upload it to the Google Classroom and do those types of things. But then also, anyone that's doing the high helo program has to remember that parent is always going to be that learning coach at home, because the parent is there with that student. So parents are going to have to fulfill that part of being that learning coach, because the teacher's obviously not there, whether it's in a live classroom situation or a videotape situation. The parent is going to have to pick up that learning coach responsibility.
And I guess to me as a grandparent, that's something that, we need to know, because if I said I'm interested in this, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, he's going to see his teacher every day and he's going to have this. And now I'm hearing that's the complete opposite, then that might be something we might need to know ahead of time.
That might be something that you need to talk to the school about, at that particular school, and how they're managing those classes.
So it's not something that the district school board has decided that we're going to do, that the teacher would.
Live stream every lesson, every day, every class.
Okay.
It's not even, ideally,
Well,
that's what we would like. It's just not possible to do that.
well, and that's, again, that's something I think people need to know, because if they're like me and you're thinking that was what it's going to be, or not all the way that way, but,
Live stream every day, every class, all day.
so there's a possibility there won't be any live streaming for some of the classes, is what you're saying.
Depends on, when we get back.
PE, yes, typing, yes, I
I'm
would.
not gonna say,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what we're doing, like with the chorus class or something, how we're going to handle that. And some others, most at the junior high, yes. But the most important aspect, if you're going in the HELO program, every student's going to need the parent, grandparent, somebody there to monitor and help them along. Mainly just school has started, it's 8:30, here we go. But the one-on-one between the teachers, now that's not going to happen all the time, but they will be able, there's going to be conference time set up where they can talk, email, text through this program.
Thank you, sir.
If you came back to work, you could help us out here.
That's what I told him. I'm Michael Chuck. I live in Bowling Green. Is there a way we can set up a fund for the students to supply masks if they run out? I'm willing to donate.
Sure, we'll take anybody's money.
For the students.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And we could set that up on the website where people would be able to send something in or mail it in or, thank you.
Most times when it comes to government agencies, the government takes care of the people that are in charge and those that work in a facility. Sometimes, like with schools, it kind of runs dry. I've seen that happen on a couple of occasions in the past.
I would, can I brag for a minute on my staff? I'm approaching my 40th year here, and I got to tell you, the reason I've stayed with my wife and my kids, of course they flew the coop, is immediately when we got here, we saw how people in this community and this school district react to our students and each other in need. I guarantee you, any kid that needs a face mask, he's going to end up with 10 or 20, because I see that day in and day out, because we have kids, as you all know, they come to your school, the first cold day, the first cold snap every year around here, you go to Walmart, and that's where every teacher is on planet, because they're out buying blankets and jackets and coats and sweaters, and they dish out money for everything and anything. So we're going to take you up on that offer, and that's something we can put on the website. We appreciate that. But I have faith. They've been doing it for as long as I can remember. Kid needs anything, particularly face masks, they'll have more than they need. But we're gonna do that. It's a good PR campaign. Help the kids.
Yeah, never hurts to help a little bit more.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I am a mom of an elementary school student. I'm also a registered nurse and a child care provider. My daughter personally has a history of asthma and pneumonia. So she's going to be placed in a quarantine room for possible symptoms, which she possibly might not have. Will that quarantine provider be the same provider all day, possibly introducing and transmitting infection to other students? Or y'all have that staff to switch out? Because in our childcare setting, DCF requires us, if one's quarantined, because there's possibility, we all get sent, based on our number of groups, we get sent home in quarantine. So that potential staff member could introduce infection to everybody that's sent to that room. And then if they're that same staff member the next day, they're still introducing that same infection to the next day and the next. So you have to switch out. Well, do y'all have enough staff to accommodate that? And I'm not a public speaker. I have heart palpitations right now.
You're doing good.
Um,
If we're aware of that at the school and they have documentation that you provide to the administration and the nurse, they're going to make arrangements. We may have a secondary quarantine room with somebody else for a situation where a student has medical needs.
Okay, well, she doesn't necessarily have medical needs. However, that same person that keeps seeing these kids, if they are coming in contact with another kid, it could be the kid before her. And then she gets it because of this quarantine provider. And then like you really need to switch them out in order to maintain the transmission, like lessen the exposure.
Hey, Brenda, you want to take that one? Since we don't have enough nurses as it is.
Right. So as it is, we're struggling with staff. I only have 3 nurses, 3 RNs for 6 schools. And I am already at a shortfall for CNAs. What I can tell you is that the nurses and all of the CNAs in the school will be masked always. There'll never be a time where they won't be. They are very adept at hand hygiene. They know how to stop the transmission of infection. Now, who's going to man all these rooms? That hasn't been hashed out yet, and it is something that needs to be. And we will.
I mean, technically, if you put 10 kids at different times in that quarantine room, you need 10 different staff members, and then they need to be sent home in case they were a possibility. So.
I think what I would suggest that we aim for is whoever staffs that room, be it a school district or a school health person, there needs to be a very well-written protocol as to how that's managed. And that person needs to have on PPE, including the mask, eye protection, gloves, and if possible, a gown, because that staff could also be infected by the child. So we wouldn't necessarily switch off the employee for every child, but we would switch off the PPE and make sure that hand hygiene is done. Anything that's been exposed has been changed out. But I think this is something that's dealt with in healthcare environments all the time. Like in our clinics, we could have somebody in a clinic room that comes in that ends up having COVID. We do environmental cleaning, very careful environmental cleaning, wiping down the surfaces. If you can leave the room vacant for an hour or more to let the droplets settle, I think that we would be happy to work with the school district on what that protocol looks like so that we can make it as safe as possible. And the person that mans that room needs to be protected. And you may tell me to shut up, but I think we need to be careful that this room is not in your offices, because then you can expose your administrative staff.
So you're saying if a student comes into this room and the parent comes and picks them up, then of course that room needs to be sanitized and cleaned, and all that PPE needs to be done away with, and all new PPE if a new student comes in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, if we're using N95s, if we're using face masks and the person hasn't touched it, they can conserve it. But I would certainly, and you can conserve your eye protection, so that it would be involved in the training of that person. I would also suggest, and I know I told you, you might want to tell me to shut up, any way that the child can get out of the building without walking down a hallway, traipsing virus behind them. I think that we need to work together on where are those rooms and what are the processes and what do you do when this happens? Because it's not if it's going to happen, it's when it happens.
And then those quarantine rooms, are y'all able to provide negative airflow?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Open a window. Seriously, open a window.
Thank you, Amanda.
Hello, I'm Jamie Lynn Dotson. I moved to Zalfa Elementary this year and I'm going to be teaching kindergarten. And I think my biggest concern and a lot of my other teacher friends' biggest concern is the high-low program, how that would look to us, especially with the younger students. My suggestion, I know you said that that's still not finalized, so that would be my request or suggestion is that there would be one high-low teacher, like you mentioned, per grade level or per school if there's not that many for the entire school. That's my biggest concern is how would I do both? How would I teach all day in the classroom and then still have time to post all my lessons virtually?
On the, real quick, on the high-low, helo, what are we calling it? I want to make sure.
Whatever makes you happy.
Okay. I want to say helo. So
Okay.
For the IEP services, how does that kind of look being implemented? Is that, who would talk about that?
Well, Carrie Terrell, I think, is in the back there. She tried to sneak in,
There
but
she is.
So obviously, obviously, I mean, ultimately, to have the best services face to face is truly, you know, the way we would like to go. However, we understand there are going to be some medical concerns. There's going to be just the COVID concerns with, you know, everything going on. It's going to be an individual basis. You know, we can't do the hundreds and hundreds of IEPs at once. There are going to be some services that are going to match up very well in that virtual setting. There's going to be some services that we're going to have to talk about. How are we going to do, you know, that related service of speech or language or OT? And so, you know, my staff's not on board yet, but my staff was, oh my gosh, superior in meeting the needs of kids in that emergency situation after spring break. So we'll work through it. We'll work with parents. You know, there's going to be some proposals that we may say, hey, this is what we think is going to be best. But in collaboration with parents, we're going to come up with a plan for all of our kids. Okay. So we're just going to work as closely as we can with parents and trying to meet the needs.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Shaman, something that I didn't see is kind of like a protocol. and I mean, and that may come more from the health department, but what happens if you know, a student is sent to the quarantine room and then they're directed to contact the health department and they contact the health department and they test. So what's our protocol for that student?
when they get to the nurse's office, for instance, or after that?
After that.
I think we talked about that.
Yeah, so ideally the child would be instructed to contact their primary care because we don't offer primary care help at our health department. So we would encourage them to do that. We can do testing, but it's not always ideal to test the child right away. You know, as Dr. Jackson said at our last meeting, it's on a case-by-case basis. And that's how we would have to determine, you know, what we would do.
And on a side question to that, let's say they did get tested and they were positive and they came out of that classroom. I am assuming that we would reach out to those parents to let them know that someone in that class tested positive for COVID, and then for those decisions to be made for those kids, would the whole class need to be quarantined, or would it only be if they showed signs?
So if the students are, do you want to answer? If the students are socially distant, there's a lot, it's a variable, so it depends. It might be just those students in the immediate vicinity. It depends on how that classroom was set up. Did the class change? And so introduce more students.
Basically going back and tracing where that kid's been for the day.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Which is why we very much, although we don't control this, we very much are in favor of having a child sit in the same seat every day, attendance taken, so that we can identify quickly who was in close proximity to that child.
Okay.
and then go from there. Because if you're, greater than 6 feet away and wearing a mask, then, there might not be a need to put you out for that 14 days. But a child that's not masked, that is sitting, and the child was in class and sneezed or something, everything, it's on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
Okay.
And my strong request to the parents is if a healthcare provider advises your child to be tested and they've been swabbed, don't let them return to school until you get a result. Because we see this all the time. Oh, I was tested last Tuesday and I went back to work, I went back to school, but it took me 5 days to get a result, and they kept going back to school. And if they are positive, then we're looking at a week's worth of possible exposure. So if a healthcare provider thinks you're sick enough and symptoms are consistent with COVID, you're getting tested, please stay home. Stay home until you have a result.
So if you get tested, the turnaround time is every bit of 5 to 7 days.
It depends on which lab it goes to. It can be as short as 2 days. It can be as long as 5 to 7.
Right.
I just actually had my epidemiologist in Polk run a report as to how long tests are taking. And in Polk, now this is not Hardy, but in Polk, we're getting about 80% of tests back within 5 days. So that it's a little bit longer than it was a few weeks ago because there's much more testing going on and the labs are inundated.
But we could also count those 5 days that they were not at school as going into their 14 days if they quote however many days that you need to be quarantined.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I might add that goes for adults too, because I spend all day looking over ER records where somebody was swabbed at the emergency room and told to isolate until they get their result, and they didn't. They went right back to work, and so possibly exposed and have in fact exposed other people.
Well, and like myself, I have to get tested every 2 weeks is what's going on now with where I work. So
Right.
I'm safe.
How critical is the temperature to know that?
You know what? That's a very, very good question. And I'll give you the caveats. I think the sort of standard right now is to quiz people about symptoms and exposure and to take their temperature. How effective is it? Well, if you catch one person, it was effective, but not everybody with COVID has fever. Not everybody with COVID has consistent fever. You could be 102 at 8 o'clock in the morning and by 11, no fever. So it's basically a screening.
But if they come to the door with 102, how critical is it to catch them before they come into the building?
Oh, I would say it's very important. I would say it's critical. Now, not everything that's fever is COVID because there's a lot of other things going on, but I want to make sure it's not COVID before we let them in and expose. So it's.
So
yes,
what
I
would
say
be
it's
the
important.
advice if somebody was at the door with a real high temperature? Should we let them in and find out later that they are, or send them back on?
No, they go right to the nurse.
Yep.
They go
would
right to
not
the
come
nurse
in.
and call the parent.
They would not be
So-
admitted.
So I don't know what the cause would be or whatever, or what we would have to do. Sound like the thing to do would be to catch them before the kid before they got on the bus, and before, if the parent dropped them off, to check them somehow before the parent took off.
That's a
That
responsibility.
would be the
of
best,
parent.
but not practical.
Well,
And well,
but it's the responsibility of the parent, but how many parents want to drop the kid off to go on to work?
right.
Some do.
So I know, that's my point.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but if we could catch them before they get in the building, cause
Right. So
That goes
I
back
know.
to what I said, just taking it in the morning and at night, but it may be inconsistent, but
Yeah,
at least
but-
you catch it.
you still got the parent that got to go to work.
Right.
If
No,
they
I-
check their kid last night,
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're gonna check them in the morning.
They're not gonna, all parents aren't gonna check their kids.
Exactly. I wasn't gonna say that, but you know.
Not.
Well, in my opinion, your riskiest places are going to be where you're most tightly compacted, and that's going to be your school bus.
buses.
Well, that's my
Right.
point. So
Right.
we,
There are
I don't
some
know
things you
what,
can consider.
Teresa, what were you using to check them? The scanner,
The thermal.
they're expensive,
Money is no object.
huh?
Money is no object.
Well, if
for-
money is no object, that's my point. So I think we should.
We've ordered them.
If we can check them before they get on the bus, or at least have the parents know that we will check them before they get
Well-
on the bus, the chances are they may not send them to the bus.
Once a student comes to the bus stop, they're the responsibility of the district.
I know, right?
So if they get on the bus and have a temperature, the only thing we can do
Is taken.
is
right.
put them in the first couple of seats, which we would do. But then, as you know, those buses, they have a tight schedule anyway to get, they're doing double runs. However, are we going to have 20, 30% fewer students riding the buses? If that turns out to be in place, then we could look at the possibility about, before they get on the bus, take the temperature. We could isolate them, sort of quarantine them on the bus. They call the school. As soon as they get to the school, this is bus
So we have a
284.
back door for 'em or
So
something?
bus 284, they're going to keep that kid to the first one off or last one. There'll be somebody there to take them right to the nurse.
So we've already cut down. If we implement that, we've already,
It just depends on the numbers.
right,
Our average day is 2,500 kids. About half the district rides a bus.
but, well,
Might I
at this stage,
interject?
can we not do enough to protect the rest of, to protect everybody?
I hear you, but I'm not sure I want to put checking temperatures on the bus driver. That's just me.
Well, the other thing is, what if the bus stop is
Well, I'm
on
not
a busy
saying put it
road?
on the
How much
bus
time does
driver,
it take
have
to do all
somebody
that?
on there.
Well,
Right.
I could,
We have some stops, we pick up 2 kids, and then we have like on Carlton Street there, they'll pick up 30 to 40.
40 kids.
And once, so if we're taking everybody's temperature, that could be half an hour. And then the bus that stops on 62 just by the apartment complex before the light on 17, we've already had one bad wreck about 6 years ago where somebody, it was dark and they didn't see the bus lights and the kids were getting on, they rammed, and we had kids end up airlifted out of here. But ideally, every kid gets their temperature taken when they get on the bus. And if they're not on a bus, if they're walker or being dropped off, when they come to the school, before you walk in the door, we're getting your temperature. And then in the afternoon, reverse procedure. Ideally, that's what we want to do. But it's going to be difficult.
so there's
I'm
another,
not saying we have to do it to all of them, but if we plant the seed that we will, maybe half of them won't get on the bus
Well, there's going to be days,
or be sent to the bus.
you know, we're going to let the principal know at the high school, okay, today, these 3 buses, they will get every kid on that bus when they're getting off, they're going to get checked.
If we send out a memo saying we will check students' temperatures, some of the parents may check them that morning.
We can ask,
There are some additional,
ma'am,
Won't they have their mask on the bus anyway?
the students? Yes, ma'am.
So wouldn't that prevent their droplets from being spread?
I would hope.
And if they're not sitting, so even if you didn't.
Yep. And again, if we have fewer students, we're going to be able to social distance the students on the bus. And also to do a better job of contact tracing. We're going to have every student on every bus assigned a seat. We're going to have every student, every class assigned a seat. And this one's going to be a little difficult, but we're going to have every student assigned a seat and wherever they're eating lunch. Some will be in the classroom, some will be in the cafeteria, some will be on the 40-something new picnic tables we're ordering for the schools. So we will know where every kid is sitting for lunch every single day if we have to do any tracing.
May I ask the doctor something? Should we postpone the opening date 2 weeks like some of the other districts?
no. That is not my decision. We are
From a
here to
help
support
From the
you all.
doctors, what do you think?
I'm not happy with the numbers in Hardy. But, I'm torn because I also see the extreme value in getting kids back to school and back to a routine. But my doctor's side, my public health side is concerned about the numbers. And the health department is here to help support the district and all the students and staff with whatever decision you all make. And we are here to provide the data and guidance for you all to make the best decision you can.
So our numbers aren't the best, is that what you're saying?
No, they're not the best. And I think there's a lot more disease out there that we're not measuring because not everybody's getting tested. But this is true across the state. It's not just Hardy. But these are decisions for you all to make. And we will support, we're going to do our best to be with you guys all the way through.
But again, even though the tests are going up as far as positive tests, the fatality rate's not here in this county.
Correct. When we
Right.
look at community metrics and mortality is one of them, but I will tell you, we have few nursing homes in Hardy. Unlike other counties that have hundreds, so we've got few. It's a little bit misleading. I think that's an important parameter, but the number of cases, the amount of testing, the percent positivity for tests, it's difficult for us to measure hospitalizations because we have one small hospital. We don't have ICUs and ventilators. Some of our other big metrics they're not easy to measure for Hardy residents. So our best metric is the number of cases, the number of new cases, and what they are finding out in their contact tracing. Because, Brenda's team is we've got how many contact tracers now for Hardy? About 8? We've got 8 people all day, every day, 7 days a week, tracking down folks that have tested positive to get their contacts to stop these cycles. So there is disease. We're widespread.
And I think you doing that with those 8 people, I think that's great being able to track it down. I'm just one that goes with data as well and numbers. And even though the numbers are going up, it just means that they're being able to recuperate from it and they're not passing away. So we're protecting our elderly. We're doing what we're supposed to do there. And like I said, I got babies going to be at the school too, so I'm not making light of it. It's just people are getting it, but they're recovering.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we're looking to slow the spread. We're not going to stop it with what we're doing. But 600 people in Hardy have had COVID out of a population of 27,000. We've got a lot more people that have the potential of getting it. And that's what's scary.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So I talked to 2 superintendents today. They called, hey, are you guys going to wait a couple of weeks or a month to open? I go, we're not talking about that. And they said, well, we're not either, but why are districts postponing 2 weeks? I said, I have no idea other than they think the numbers are going to go down drastically in 2 weeks. Do you have any idea why they're postponing 2 weeks? Somebody else does?
It's for us as teachers. I feel like if you were to postpone school, that was on my list. So I'll tell you right here from the voice of a teacher who knows nothing about what's going on and is freaked out beyond all get out about prepping and having myself not look like an idiot when I stand before those kids on the 10th of August. The postponement is not about stopping the virus. It's about giving us as a teaching staff and support staff time to accommodate for what you guys are asking us to do. I just got my class schedule today. Yeah, I mean, we've been trying our best, but when the school that we're working at doesn't even have a set plan, and we'll only have that turned in 3 days before we're supposed to report back as teachers and have 3 days of in-service and open house and all this, I feel like we're going to look like idiots. And I think that's going to be detrimental to us as a district. I don't think that them postponing, now I don't know about like Sarasota postponing until the 31st, but I think even giving us as teachers 3 days additional time, postponing till like that Thursday of that week or something like that, just to give us as teachers time to sit down with our peers, with our cohorts, and to actually hash out something to have a plan.
Don't go away. I got a question.
She's been waiting. Okay.
So that was a big part of yesterday and also Monday and Tuesday. We need more time. Everybody agreed in the room. If we wait 2 weeks, the students lose 2 weeks of time.
Right.
We have to add 2 weeks on
Yes.
next June.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why I'm saying, like,
even if you were to give us an additional couple of days, you know,
Okay.
like in the previous years where we've gone back and the students haven't started till like that Wednesday or Thursday, even a couple of days, take away even, I know somebody's going to cuss me later, but take away our teacher work days later in the year if you have to give us an opportunity to do it right now.
Okay, so for every day, every day that we postpone the kids, you're gonna be working extra days. Okay, so if.
We do it anyway, so, I mean.
As a teacher, this next statement would not interest me, but that was when I was a teacher. If we postpone 2 weeks, we got 2 weeks to add on. Payroll for this district is $1.2 million every 2 weeks. We have to add $1.2 million. It's not there. I already checked, and I met with finance. That was one of the options. We don't know where we can get that from, and we're trying to see if we can get it through the CARES Act or not. Yeah, every principal, every administrator, every director, we agree. 2 weeks would be great. 4 weeks would be even better. We're asking y'all to do something for the first time, essentially, with pre-planning, with everything else going on and meetings and this and that. We were going to devote all of our PD and all the training to doing this, but 2 days, 3 days, not enough. I don't think 2 weeks is enough. We basically need at least a month to do it right. So we're with you, and we're trying to work on that too. Of course, that has to get approved by the school board and the state, if we can possibly even do that. I'm really concerned. I keep looking at the calendar. Y'all come back 2 weeks from Monday, and the kids 3 weeks from Monday. Yeah, we're not going to be ready. Yeah, I know.
I have something to add to that. Have y'all considered year-round schooling, like a balanced school schedule, like the 45-15? That gives you 3 weeks break. That's a quarantine period. That's an incubation period. That's a teacher planning period. You know, if you've got something before you go back, it gives you time to convert to high-low. You can deep clean the schools during those breaks. That's 4 deep cleans a year versus the 1 that we generally get. It can be beneficial for families, grades, teacher planning, infection spread, you name
Yeah,
it.
we could not do that for this year. Would not be approved by DOE.
Okay.
I mean, we're already set. That's been brought up in the past, like 20 years ago. We didn't have a lot of people in favor. Polk County tried it, several elementaries. It kind of crashed and burned really badly. But yeah, I think there's some good points to that, and it's been discussed. But I mean, we couldn't do it right now.
We went to virtual within just 2 weeks' notice, I think.
The state approved that. They're not going to approve us going to year round right now.
Is that a district option or is that a state option? Because from what my research was, that it was district.
I mean, yeah, but we can't just do that. DOE has to approve that.
Okay.
Viruses are circulated from toilets flushing. School toilets don't have lids on them. And who will clean the bathrooms, including the ones inside the classrooms? Out at the high school, I know like pretty much the students are constantly going to the bathroom. So are we going to limit bathrooms, or are we going to have a bathroom monitor? I mean, because just for their safety and on that, I mean, I know nobody's really looking at that right now, but that's going to be but the kids just want to get out of class. You know, how are we going to protect the students after every student that goes and flushes the toilet or goes in there? Have we thought about that?
Well, I think that's a valid concern, but this is a respiratory virus. So I think the biggest risk in bathrooms is when
But
you
if they're
flush
coughing
things.
on the walls and stuff,
Right.
and they're touching. We're
But-
saying it's a touching
Yeah,
too.
but it's the high touch surfaces like the when you flush the toilet and if there's handles on the sinks and the bathroom doors. So
Yeah.
I would, yes, I think there needs to be soap and there needs to be adequate hygiene in the bathrooms, but I don't think a flushing toilet, I don't think is going to be that big of a deal in this particular virus.
All right.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
have a couple of things. First of all, if we're gonna do temperatures, couldn't we do it in homerooms? Rather than on the bus? I mean, if they're on the bus, they're coming to school anyway. So maybe every homeroom teacher could just do their, and then you limit it to the kids that were in that room. I don't know. I don't know how many thermometers that would take. Apparently a lot. But if every teacher
350.
Thank you. But just a thought, if we could do it first period, we could go ahead and get it out of the way, and then at least we could get those kids to the nurse. This one's a question about, I understand that kids don't get it that often. They don't get it as bad as adults do. They're not the group that's at risk. But should we be concerned that opening up the school is going to send it out to all those people that are at risk in the community?
There's really limited data on this. The feeling, let's talk about the flu. With regular seasonal flu, our children are little vectors because a lot of spread in a community is based on children who are in school. Coronavirus doesn't seem to be that way. But again, I don't think anybody's ever opened with the degree of spread that we've got. But the feeling is that children probably are not going to be harboring it and spreading it that much. Now we're going to learn a lot, but right now that's the feeling.
Could that be because we closed schools when we got worried and kids have been at home since March?
I think that's a good question, but again, the feeling, because the American Academy of Pediatrics, other organizations have come out and have specifically said that it does not appear that children are a primary vector for this. So we don't think so, but we will be learning.
Do you think those districts that are waiting to see what happens to us?
I don't think so.
No.
Just want to know.
I don't know.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a lab rat.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then my last thing is that, following what Teresa White had to say, I just want to reassure parents as a high school teacher that what you saw in the spring is not what we have planned coming this fall. It will not be, we were drowning. We just had to figure out what to do in that moment to get kids some instruction over the next 9 weeks. We've all been studying all summer, learning new programs, researching tech that can help us do a better job when we come back in the fall. The high school has some really innovative plans. It's not going to be what you saw in the spring. It's going to be much better. It's going to be the best instruction that we can deliver online to those kids that are at risk and need the HELO program to stay at home, or that it just fits their life better. We have a much better plan in place to make sure that instruction is meaningful and valuable and not just what you saw in the spring. We will still need you to be coaches, yes, but we won't expect you to teach your children algebra at your dining room table. We have a better plan now moving forward.
Thank you.
My deal is about with the virtual classes y'all did in the spring. I know, like Brandy said, it was just rush, get it all together. But I have a kindergartner that I was trying to teach her these simple programs. Copy codes here, copy codes there. And I even asked other teachers, and they couldn't even quite get it on the same page as what we're trying to figure out. So how can we make that easier for these students? Are we going to be on the same program or different sets of programs as North Wauchula?
Each school is going to have their own program.
Okay, is there any way to make it easier? Because for me,
For a kindergartner, no. No, I'm not trying. I'm not trying to.
I know you ain't trying, but I'm just saying. My thing is, I work from anywhere from 8, 12 hours a day, sometimes 7 days a week, and kind of hard for me to do that solo. But I got my parents' help. But we need to figure out something easier for the elementary kids, especially for someone like me. You know, I'm tech savvy, but still.
Look, what we can provide virtually is not going to be what we can provide in the classroom. So everybody has to weigh that decision. And I'm not asking people to determine, well, my kid's academic world is more important than his health world. It's a tough call. And if my kids were here right now in the school district, to be honest with you, I don't know what I would do right now, because it's really important for them to be in school, particularly if they're older and they're heading off to college. Yeah, but then I'm concerned. And as the numbers go up every day, do I want my kids to be in the school? Are they go? And then they get COVID-19, and I told them they need to be in school. How am I going to feel now? Look, for the younger ones, I say kindergarten, first grade. That's a tough challenge. It's not going to be easy, even with the parent there sitting with them working, because their attention span's not very long, and they're going to get bored. And it's not like being in the classroom with the other kids and doing the activities. No, it's not going to be great. I know it's difficult.
But the difficult part is that the teachers that do it, and you try to explain to them, so look, this is what I'm seeing, and then what they're doing is totally opposite of what the student's seeing. So how are we supposed to explain to a teacher that situation when they're not even seeing the same thing we're seeing?
I hear you.
But they will this time though, right? Because the school has its own.
They're going to see the assignments, and some of them will be live streamed, but not all. And that's, like I said, kindergarten, first grade is going to be the toughest challenge, not only for the kids and the parents, but for the teachers.
Gotcha. All right, I got another question. What happens whenever we're doing the 9-week quarter, signing up, everything else, so forth? Say when the migrant kids come back into our school system, how is that going to happen? Because usually they come in the middle of the year, middle of the 9 weeks. What are we going to do with them, and what are we going to tell them, or whatever? Because I'm just speaking just theoretically as a Hardin County person, thinking all these questions, what's going on?
And our numbers compared to 20, 30 years ago, as far as our migrant students, are lower than they used to be, as far as the data we receive from DOE. That's come up in discussion too, but right now we're focusing on getting school started. We know we're going to have to deal with that, and we're going to come up with something, and working with the health department, we're hoping to have some suggestions for us. And we're talking to other districts, what they're going to do.
All right, so another question is, for the less fortunate kids that their parents cannot, let's say, they wanted them to do virtual schooling, and they don't have access to internet access or anything like that, or I know Comcast, everything else, there's stuff in the mix of getting things going, but what happened with that?
We're waiting. October 1st is the earliest we're going to see hotspots. We don't know how many we're going to get. We ordered those in April.
Okay.
But so did every other school district probably in the country. So school starts, you don't have internet at home. We can't provide internet. The only way we could do is with a hotspot. We can provide the device, but we can't provide internet connection. In some places, some homes, they just can't get it. They have to do like the used satellite company to get that.
All right, so where's your dedicated hotspots going to be at? Do you have that place yet or no?
We're going to get some to neighborhoods. We're going to get some to homes.
Todd.
And Todd may have an answer. He changed his mind, you know.
Did we get that on video, by the way?
So, we do have some, is this on? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have some hotspots. We are going to try to source more. We're aware of the challenges. And if you're aware of how mobile networks work, they're different no matter where you live. So we're doing our best to get a couple different service providers, maybe more than 2, so that we realize the federal government's been trying to overcome broadband for rural for 20 years. So the school district's not going to be able to do it in 2 months, but we're going to do our best to get a solution. So there might be different brands of hotspots that we will try for those that need it most. We may have to use, this mask is hard to talk, NSLP data, Title I enrollment. We're going to find some mechanism to get those devices to the kids that need it most as best we can.
Okay, but have y'all started working on that process though and got it going, or
Yes.
He says October, but y'all been working on this since middle of spring, so there's a whole leeway what's going on. I mean, there's a lot to be developed between here and there, but what's the status on it?
You have a lot of questions, and there's a lot to it. There's not a yes or no answer to that. We've been working very hard on that, and we've been sourcing equipment between funding challenges, getting the equipment, figuring out where they're going to work. Each provider, T-Mobile may work somewhere, Verizon may work somewhere else. So we are doing our best to get those and allocate them as equitably as possible.
All right, because I know y'all have to do the blocking your certain pages and everything else. That's all just IT stuff and everything else.
Absolutely.
But I was just trying to try to figure out for the rest of the students and people that can't be here to talk for them, because these are questions people come to me and ask me, and I work with the IT and everything else, and I'm just trying to figure out. I mean, if you need help push things along or whatever, I mean, community is your outlet right here to help you out. I mean, everybody here. So just let us know what you need. We'll somebody to reach out and let y'all know what we could do or what. It's like certain fundings with your thermometers and everything else. Let us know. There's people out there to do it. Go get it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before I move to, okay, I don't have my heels on today. Before I move on to my list of questions, just to maybe set that gentleman's mind at ease. I know for us at the high school, we have been working very diligently to have a system in place where all of our teachers will be very consistent in what we're going to be showing students online and how we present our material, what methods we use, and so forth. So that may bring a little bit of peace of mind as a parent to know that, at least individual schools are trying very hard to make things consistent. So if you have a kindergartner and a fourth grader, both at North Wauchula, I would hope that North Wauchula is doing the same as the high school to try and make that look as consistent on those Google Classroom pages and so forth.
First grade teacher, also have one going into first grade grandson. I know at our school, we're going to do Seesaw platform because it's easier for our children to navigate than going through Google Classroom.
Right.
So I know our second through fifth is doing Google Classroom, but our K-1 teachers are doing Seesaw.
And just as a suggestion, maybe to administration and people that set up those parent nights that are seem very poorly attended, just saying. As a parent, but that may be an opportunity to maybe educate parents on some of the things that we are offering, how to navigate Google Classroom, how to navigate Seesaw, how to use Kami. I mean, I'm a fairly techie person, and I had even seen Kami at a tech conference, and when my kid says, "Mom, just annotate it in Kami," I'm like, quit cussing at me. I didn't know what he was talking about. So if we have an opportunity to educate parents on those platforms that we're going to be using, then I think that would be very beneficial, especially to those in multiple schools using different things. So that was a side note. On to the list. Okay, you mentioned if a student is put in a quarantine room, I know that would be fairly easy for elementary teachers to know which students have been tested or sent home under a quarantine procedure. Secondary teachers may have a little bit harder time with that. I know the fear for us is, okay, so a student was sent to the clinic by an A-day teacher at the high school, let's say their even day teacher. Well, what if they return to the school on their odd day and I had no clue that student wasn't supposed to be on campus? Is that a HIPAA violation to send that out to teachers to allow them to know? So we have absolutely no way of knowing. So Johnny was sent home on Monday in a quarantine room. He shows back up to school on Tuesday in my odd day class. I have no way of knowing that Johnny was sent home.
Correct. However, what I would say is the clinic rooms are staffed by DOH employees. And so the burden might fall to the DOH employees, the nurses, the CNAs, to identify what children's names show up on the absenteeism
Mhm.
list. And then they will be able to, there's a way to work around it.
Maybe
without
like to get with the attendant, the
confidentiality.
person that looks at attendance each day and sees, oh, wait, Johnny's here today. He was not
Correct.
supposed to be here. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
They might not call your classroom and say, now, you know,
Right.
we're not going to do that, but we have ways to get around.
Well, I
it.
hope they would call them up and say, get up here, but
Right.
they don't have to tell me why. Okay. Second thing, last week it was mentioned that a teacher, if they were to become infected, may be eligible for what you called, I believe it was federal leave, Mr. Shaman. Could you elaborate on what that means a little bit more? Because people have asked, is that a paid leave? Is that an unpaid leave? Is it like jury duty where if you're summoned, you get paid still?
So you would say, for instance, you have to get somebody, you know, you were exposed. So you're entitled to 10 school days or business days, 14 calendar days, and you still get paid.
So that doesn't come against basically our sick leave?
No.
Okay.
No,
That
just
was
as
a
long as
question
you
that came up.
provide documentation to us so we can put it in.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Another question. We had a discussion, I know, in a meeting that we had yesterday, about students that may be in the HELO program, but still participate in student athletics. Will it be the sole responsibility of that student or parent to get them to any kind of athletic practice? Because we have so many students that take the shuttle buses and things like that to practice. So has there been any consideration given to any kind of after-school transportation?
Right now, we don't even know if we're going to have athletics.
But
Fair enough.
If we do.
We do.
And I want to follow up on that conversation real quick in
Sure.
regards to that, because
Okay.
if a parent chooses for their child to stay home and be HELO, that's fine, because they feel that it's not safe at school, but then they take them to an extracurricular activity around other students.
Yeah.
That's just me personally, I have a concern with that. Because if they're not, anyway, I'll go there with that. So with you, the
Fair
same
enough.
way.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
we need to
brought that
talk
up.
through that
I brought that up 3 times in 3 different meetings. So I'm a parent. I'm concerned my son, he's going to get the virus, keeping him home. But then I'm going to send him to football practice where
Right.
everybody's sweating and drinking water and all that. So then
You
is
kinda
the
negated
concern
what
for my son only for academic reasons? But hey, it's football. He's got to play football. He might get a chance to get a scholarship. He's going to be out there. So we have brought that up 3 times, and we're still searching for that answer amongst some others. Yeah.
Okay. So it has been.
Paul, we may agree on
That's
that.
fine.
Yeah, I think legally we can't do anything. I just think morally, it's a moral issue with the parent.
And that's understandable. I mean, when you put it that way, that's very understandable. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just had one last question. Is there a projected date for when the HELO plans will be pushed out to parents or staff?
You got the basics tonight.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's going out to the staff. We're going to post it on the website, all the school websites and the district website. I don't know if y'all noticed, there's some little letters that says draft.
Right.
So,
But I know like the high school's still not even finalized what we're going to do. So
Right.
I just didn't know if there's a set date that you guys as a school district have said, we want parents to know by this day.
We're going to continue to work on this. A week from tonight is a board meeting. We're going to present the final draft. The board has to approve it, then we send it to the state. They have to approve it. It's due to them by July 31st. We're going to get it out as soon as we possibly can because our time's so limited. Y'all's time's limited.
Okay.
To mention something that she had mentioned earlier, if, we were to say, move school back 3 days, not a week, not 2 weeks, but 3 days, and you take away some work days and things like what she referred to, when does that decision have to be made?
Whenever you want to make it.
Okay.
I have no idea. That's a brand new one.
Okay.
But we can discuss that.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Demchak. Couple of points I'd like to make. Someone mentioned why other counties are postponing. It's not just for the staff health and well-being and getting things done. but they're also waiting for to see if the data starts falling to below a 10% positive test rate. 2 to 4 weeks out, that could very well happen. And once you get below a 10% positive test rate, then you start to flatten the curve and you can open up more. I think it's very safe to assume with 5,200 students, if 20% of them stay home, 4,000 students, you're going to have 4,000 students with COVID. Because you're in the public setting, and no matter everything you do, you're not going to stop the spread of the virus. I hope you're right that the children don't become the transport vectors, but someone said because they stayed home, and then once they started going to the beaches and the parties, that groups now started picking up, and there's over a 33% statewide positive test rate in under 18. So they're going to get it, they're going to spread it, they're going to take it home, and their grandparents are going to die. Betsy DeVos said she expects 0.04% of the students coming back to school to die. Well, that's 2+ kids here in Hardy County. You, the school board, going to pick those 2? I mean, essentially, by opening the schools August 3rd, you're potentially picking 2 students in this county to die. Just keep that in mind. About a month ago, a committee was put together, and the union was invited to be part of that committee. And it was stated, we're having this committee because the state says we have to. You've had many, many meetings, I hear since then, that the union has not had a voice in. You're looking at changes in working conditions that all have to be bargained. It would have been so much better to have us in the front door helping make those decisions, to write MOUs as we go to take care of that. But things are changing, and I just think it's going to come back to.
And we're working on the MOU that you sent to district.
Times are changing, but I keep hearing these meetings, the principals, there are other voices out there with ideas. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to sit on 5 county committees, and I hear a lot of things that are going on, and 2 of those counties have already postponed their start date. A third one probably will before the week's out, so they're just looking out for the students first. And I hope you continue to do that here. Thank you.
Are they bringing their staff back at the regular time?
Yes.
Just postponing students?
Yes.
So how are they going to pay these people at the end of the year for the extra 2 weeks?
There are 24 paychecks in the year. Student, you've got a para that works 1,200 hours. You take those 1,200 hours divided by the 24 paychecks times the rate, and that's how you set it. There's no extra money needed or expected.
Aren't they going to work 2 extra weeks?
They don't. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one thing on my list. It's not days, it's minutes in seats. And most districts have more minutes already built into the school day than
But I'm
required.
talking for, okay. Yeah, we can we've done that in hurricane days.
Yeah.
So we can reduce it, like not make up hurricane days. But that's not up to us. We have to get approval by DOE.
Right, and you also ask for waivers for minutes as well.
Right.
Yes. So if you extend the school day a half an hour, so your hourly employees get paid an extra half an hour, so they still work the hours to earn their salary without having to give up, say, 2 weeks worth of pay. And you're getting all the money based on last year's FTE anyway. So there's no cuts to the school budget until January at the earliest.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Cochran himself said that.
Who did?
Cochran.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Rich.
I assume we're going to see cuts possibly as early as November 1st. I don't think we're going to get to Christmas without any cuts. What we were told, 10, 20, or 30% of your budget's going to be cut. Yes. And probably leaning more toward the 20 or 30%. So we've looked at the numbers. That's a lot of money for us. It's a lot of money for anybody.
But the funding through the first 2 FTEs is going to be based on last year's last count.
Correct.
Then they'll correct it after your October count, maybe in January, depending what happens as the economy recovers. So yeah, it's good to have a plan, but it doesn't mean it's cut in stone.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, so I didn't prepare anything. Mine's just more as a parent who has a student in the summer reading camp whose son is going into the 3rd grade with an IEP, and the growth he made from the point that we got the IEP established, he only had the 3rd quarter for services. was just amazing and astounding. Now, I respect all parents' right to make those hard choices for their kids, whether or not to go back to school or not. They do have that choice. But having a student who's been at the summer reading camp, and I'm sorry, Miss Hall, I have not sent him in a mask, but he has told me y'all have given him one, and he's worn it. Everything's been going well. The staff, he's with around 45 kids from what the newspaper said. And this is just for parents at home that maybe need an idea of what it has been like. And I tease that he's kind of a guinea pig because dadgummit, he needs those services, and any extra help that I can get, I'm going to take for him because that's what I want to provide. He doesn't have pre-existing medical conditions that would make me hesitate because, again, if my child did, I would have to reconsider. But everything's gone well. And I just wanted to give a peace of mind of some of those parents who don't have a choice, in the sense of they both work. Their kids are too young to stay home, and part of their choice is just sending them to school with the best of luck on everything. And having worked also for the school board, I understand everyone's questions are coming from and points of view, but I also understand that you only have so much you can work with. And I know from being in the schools, like you were saying, if a child needs a mask, I'd leave. Susan covered phones, I'd go, or a jacket, I'd go to Walmart and they'd have jackets. If they needed shoes and they were on a field trip, I'd go get shoes or take some out of the nurse's station and we drive them to the field trip location. Just that, as upsetting as everything is and as many unanswered questions as there are, our county takes care of itself in ways you have no idea. And having been in the school and contributed to that, I mean, these kids are not just students, these are the teachers' babies. And those teachers that have students in the classroom, they're going to be treated as such. I don't have any questions personally, but I was asked to, side note, I guess, is if a teacher needs to be tested because they suspect they have COVID, is health insurance cover that? Is it free now through the health department? I'm not sure, but it was asked of me.
So yes, we are tested on Tuesdays and Wednesdays currently. This coming up week, we'll have one nurse down, so we'll actually just test on the one day, but it is free of charge.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Claire Cornell, and I am a parent of an elementary student, a middle school student, and a high school student. Tonight, my question comes to you on behalf of my high school student. I really felt like I've been to all the meetings. I felt like I understood the 3 plans, and I felt like I was explaining it to people and getting it. And then this week, we received a reminder from the high school that said, don't fill out the letter of intent, things are changing. And then we got a call out that said the same thing. And tonight we have not addressed that. So as a parent of a high schooler, can you tell me why the high school is now saying, do not fill out the letter of intent, things are different? We haven't talked about that tonight. I understand the high school teachers are here and they're saying, we got a plan. I believe them, but I need to know why we had a stop and what's the term? Where are we going? What's the plan?
Dr. Polk presented to yesterday's meeting a 4th option only for the high school.
And are we going to present that to the community?
All the high school teachers just got a survey to fill out like an hour ago on, so that we're supposed to fill out with these options that we went to meetings for. So she's actively pursuing getting this hammered down. I'm hoping it's really fast.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I just feel like we had such good momentum, and then for it to just say stop and there be no, hey, we're getting with the high school teachers and we're developing a 4th plan. That's where I'm saying I'd like to know, because I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going, and now
It's for the benefit of the teachers and the students. And we've been looking at options. And this is something she came up with literally yesterday at 8 o'clock, and we discussed it for 4 hours. And I think there might be some teachers here. I have the written information, but they're still working on the plan. If there's a high school teacher here that wants to discuss what Dr. Polk has discussed, because to be honest with you, you're going to know more about it than I do at this point.
Okay, so I can't give you the plan details because those aren't nailed down yet. We know all three plans, and Dr. Polk, in speaking with parents that have kids in the schools, understood that some parents were not happy with what happened in the spring, so they were really worried about sending their kid, keeping their kid home for just online instruction. So she came up with a third option that would allow kids, it would limit their exposure because it would limit how many days they are around other children, but it would also offer them some FaceTime with teachers. So it's kind of a mixture of online instruction and face-to-face instruction for kids that that would work for families that's important for. If your kid's struggling with being at home and never seeing any other people, this would give that kid an option. If you don't want your kid to go to school 5 days a week, this would give you another option. She sent us she had meetings with us the last 2 days. She sent us the poll to find out what we were in favor of, because we are the ones that have to pull it off, and it would leave us with 3 different kinds of students in our classes. But after talking about it for 2 days, it feels possible and smart. So she just really wanted to offer that option to parents. And as soon as we all answer today, and she pulls that together with all the information she has at her fingertips, she's going to decide whether or not to pitch it to them, and then you guys will approve it, is what we understand to be the case.
Just so I make sure I understand. So you're saying in the high school, there's possibly 4 options, not 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Should I name them?
4th option for high school. So the 3 established plans will remain in place.
Right.
With the possibility of a 4th established.
Only for high schoolers.
Right. Only high school.
Only for high schoolers. Yeah,
It's a hybrid.
it's a hybrid program.
Yeah, it's a hybrid.
So there would be kids that stay home 5 days a week, kids that come, that only do online instruction from my classroom. I will have kids in my classroom that I never see that are at home getting online instruction. I will also have hybrid kids who come to me 1 day a week. And then the other days of the week, another day of the week, they would see their odd teachers. The rest of the week, they would be at home working on my online instruction in my class.
I have a
So-
question. I have a question on that model. The student that would come once a week, will that student be in the class with other students that's been there all week?
Mhm.
All that.
So it
student
does-
come
it
twice
does-
a week.
Because I have,
Even
we can
day,
talk
odd
about it some
day.
more, but anyway.
Yeah. 'Cause they
I mean,
have-
it does increase their exposure to other kids, but some kids just are not doing well with staying home.
Well, that's where I was going before. And I'm open to anything. But
Like
if
the
you're
athletics.
staying home, you're staying home. If you're coming to school, you're coming to school. But I'm open minded. I mean, I'm not made my mind. I'm just talking here.
Well,
just
but maybe
debating.
just that
So-
102 minutes of face-to-face instruction would make all the difference in the world for that student.
Understood.
I think Paul's just coming from the point, if a parent wants to keep their kid at home, why is it okay 1 day or 2 days to send them to school? Like, why?
To get that
And
face-to-face.
expose other
And
kids, other students.
and exposure. That's probably.
Because, for example, I'm sending my child to school
Mhm.
5 days a week. He's going to go
Mhm.
to school come August when we start, whatever. But and I know elementary, it's not going to happen. But if it did, now I've got a student coming in that's been out
At home. Hopefully.
now coming, possibly exposing, I'm just having that dialogue. That's all.
Right. Well, I guess.
I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, yeah. We have to talk through all of it. And this
Right.
is what we've been doing for 2 days.
Right.
But I think maybe that kid that's been secluded at home is more at risk because of now he's at school with kids that come
Could
5
be.
days a week.
Could be.
He's being more exposed than
Right.
the others. But for some kids,
Understood.
I mean, especially if I was a high schooler, I would need to see my algebra teacher at least once a week.
Right. Understood. Yep. Okay.
And to add to that, part of that was to keep the social distancing down too.
And the science teachers can do labs on that day. We can give tests on that day without needing a testing center. It would take care of a lot of what we do at the high school level
Understood.
and keep that level of honesty in place
Mhm.
because they are competing for scholarships and things like that.
Well, ideally, we would like all the kids to be able to be at school. I mean, that's what you would
Yeah.
ultimately
Right.
want to push
Yeah, for
for.
sure.
So.
Okay.
The other question I have is, towards the end of the school year, we all supposed to do testing with the little ones, say elementary school, which she's doing the first. That testing, how do we know where our kids at and so forth? Because the end of the year testing, they didn't get, are the first grade teachers gonna try to refresh them?
Of course we are.
But my question is, they didn't do end of the year testing, okay?
We were not able to, correct.
Right, so, but what are the teachers or, what are they gonna do to help them kindergartners going to first?
Right. And what
Because we never got a straight answer from any of this towards the end of the year.
Okay, as a first grade teacher, when they come into my room, I am going to pre-screen them with the sight words they should learn in kindergarten, their letters, their sounds, and they blend those together. Then I will know where that child's deficient. Some of those kindergarten kids have maintained and kept it, and they're ready to start that reading. Others, we pull them back in small groups, with safety, going on, like just last week orders, not week providers, I can see them. And we will work with that child to get them caught up.
Yeah, because I'm just trying to figure out, because this, like I said, first time having a kid in school, and I'm new to all this. So
I'm
I
telling you,
just,
they're going to the first grade, they need to be there to see our mouths, teaching that phonics.
right, so that's what I was just trying to figure out, because like I said, towards the end of the school year, we didn't know what was happening, all this was coming about, and just like, if you have more advanced students or stuff like that, are they able to go to that advancement of the classroom and not into a regular, I guess however you're gonna call it?
Because some do have reach classes. I was reached for several years in my school, but because of what happened, we now are just dispersed out. But then you still have your small groups where I can advance my higher learners and then work with those lower ones and still get the first grade standards and that kind of.
And do y'all pull some of that from the, I guess, what's the eye reading and all that stuff? Do y'all?
Well, we're gonna iReady test them earlier this year. They opened up the diagnostics window earlier, so we can pull that from iReady. But I myself, being this is my 40th year, you'll know the first couple of days who's gonna need that extra assistance, and we will give it to them, I promise you.
Oh, I'm like I said, I'm just asking because other people came to me and asked, and like I said, they're not able to be here. Yeah.
And we already cross-planned with first grade and told them exactly what we would teach.
Right.
And then we also placed our kids in groups when they left us, and they're going to be placed that way when they go to first grade. So the high kids will be with high kids, and they already know coming in based on what we observed when they left us. And then we also made a checklist of what we taught, what we didn't teach in terms of standards, and they already have it.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I'm just trying to figure all this out because there's other people that came to me that, like I said, they want to know, but they're not able to be here. So I'm just popping
Yes, sir,
questions
and
out.
I appreciate that. To me, teaching, I'm coming, because I like teaching, apparently. And I have a kindergartner, this teacher's here now, that has a 504 now, that struggles a lot. Homeschool learning is not the best place for him. He will not learn. He wouldn't listen to me, so it's one-on-one.
Oh, I'm coming to school.
So he's going to school, but
He's
I'm
gotta be
teaching
in
the summer
class.
program here, and these kids are awesome. They can wear those masks. They know when to wash their hands. They know when to keep their space clean. We clean up every time that we rotate. They're all in the same desk. We have fun, and they're enjoying seeing other students.
Yeah, that's what love misses. So
The social contact,
Yeah.
they need it. They're babies.
yeah, like I said, I'm not beating up on no one. I'm just questions that like other people have concerns with and stuff like that.
It's a perfect question.
So
It's perfect.
Will parents that are on Hilo be able to access like how you guys STAR test? I mean, I know we can access iReady, but if a student is home, will they have STAR testing capabilities from home?
Yes, all of our programs will be available at home, and we will do our diagnostic testing at the beginning of the school year with iReady, and we'll do those diagnostic tests in the mid-year and in the final, the last diagnostic. So all those same diagnostic tests will be in place.
all right. Yeah,
So we'll
like I
know where to
said,
start.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to figure out some things and other people want to know stuff.
No, I'm gonna start this kind of ready as a first grade teacher. I don't know, I know the junior high school kids were taking tests and they were looking at their phone and doing that. But I would think from my classroom, I would want a window from that 2 to 3 that say, okay, we're gonna get on, we're gonna start test, and then I can see some of the progress, especially for iReady. Because, we want them, it to be a genuine score.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you need help for any of your people that have questions, I'm glad to help.
Yes, ma'am.
That's my last
You
question.
only get one.
Mr. Shaman, last week I had my grandson in here with me, and you had mentioned about masks. And he said, well, Grammy, why are they giving staff masks and not students? I said to him, well, son, I spent over $100-something for your mask, so you're good. But again, for those kids, and I know you're saying that you have some masks,
Right.
but is it possible to know that we have enough in case a student will not have those masks?
Don't know till they start showing up to school and how many need them.
Okay.
Is it going to be 1% or 50%?
My next question is.
Wait a minute, that was the last question.
No, Robert Rules of Order said I can speak on another subject.
And you're older than me, so go ahead.
But my next question in regards to the mask is, I heard you say earlier in the meeting that it would be up to the teacher if the student can keep the mask on in the classroom.
When they're in the classroom, depending on the activity, the social distancing, where they're sitting. If maybe a kid just has a cold, not COVID-19, and it's uncomfortable. We're starting school whenever we start, probably sometime in August. It's going to be really hot. So we want to give the teachers the leeway, but if you're sitting at a desk or a table and nobody's really close to you, if they want to let them take it off, I just don't see, I don't know, I can't see any of our kids and a lot of adults wearing it all day. I'm afraid they're not going to do that. And then the teachers are going to be fighting with the kids about masks, and we're not going to get a lot of teaching and learning done because it's going to become an issue. And the younger they are, the tougher it's going to be.
Well, and I think parents are going to be fighting with kids now, knowing that they're taking those masks on and off in the classroom, because I think you guys already stated that it's going to be slim to none to be able to social distance in the classroom.
Right.
So as a parent, if I say to my child, my grandchild, you will wear that mask.
All day, and that's
is
fine.
that okay?
Yeah, and they'll just say, okay, we're starting class. If you don't want to wear the mask all day, that's, and you've talked to your parents, if your parents say you're wearing that mask no matter what all day long, and the teacher will probably help you enforce that.
Okay. Second question. I know there's been a big push on social distancing and hand washing. We don't have hot water in our schools. Is that important?
Actually, I was watching a video on that today. It's okay. It can be either
It's
hot
okay.
or it's okay to use lukewarm or just regular water, as long as the water's clean, is what the CDC says.
Mostly they're going to be using the hand sanitizer more than anything, probably, unless they're in the restroom.
Okay, so, we're good. That's my last question.
Sure. I'll give you a bonus. You get one more.
Okay, so if my grandson.
In case you don't know, we go back a long time, and we've done a lot of things together. Some, I'm not sure they were illegal, but that was we were younger.
Mr. Shaman, Jamie Howe. I don't have jokes like that, and I'm not a public speaker. I get pretty nervous. So I have 2 twin girls going into 7th grade, and I'm also a child care provider who has had a case of COVID that was brought in by I will say irresponsible, not being responsible, but maybe because of naiveness, not malicious. But I was listening to the streaming in between working, so you might have already answered some of these questions, and I think I found one of them. One, I went from 16, back in March, I went from 16 staff members to 5. What is going to happen if you start, and I saw some of the fear last week, being here the whole meeting, what will happen if you start and you lose staff members? Will the classrooms of the children who decide to come to school, will they increase? Do you already have a plan? Which, for the record, I don't admire any of you. I had 140 children when this started, not near the capacity you do, and I know what I go through daily. So I don't admire any of you in your position, but it's just, do you have a plan in case that is to happen? Is my first question.
There's so many variables with the virus. Once we start school, we're putting a lot of people back together in buildings. I mentioned last week, if I lose 10 bus drivers,
You'll be
the
waiting.
state is, yeah. State says you gotta have a license. But what if we can't haul kids on the buses? I don't have enough drivers. Well, if it becomes an emergency situation, I'm just gonna let DOE know. And we're driving, I've driven a bus before. And Todd's,
I have too.
we got other people. Kate and Edsa doesn't know it. Hope he's not watching. But Mr. Outdoor Classroom is gonna be on bus. What if in one kitchen, say at one school, 4 or 5 of the food service people go out? If it's the front office at the high school and Dr. Polk gets it, there's a good chance everybody in that front office is going to get it. The science department at the high school, if one of you get it, there's a good chance you're all going out. So what's the plan? I have no idea right now. We're going to deal with it. We're going to get people in. We're going to get subs. The administrators know that they may be in classrooms teaching. I will not do math. I will find something else to teach because I won't do a good job with that. It's just going to be everybody on deck. We're going to get everybody we can. We're going to call retired teachers. Can you come back as a sub for a while? That's the plan. It's very loose right now. We just don't know what's going to happen. There might be one person that contracts the virus. I might have 100 employees. I might have 500 kids. We'll get through it like everything else. I don't know how. I don't know the details. We're working on it. But till the problem can, we get in front of us, we don't know how. But we're coming up with plans for everything. And I don't mean to startle anybody, but we've even had several meetings because August is coming and September. And if we have a hurricane coming, and we are required now to social distance in the evacuation shelters. So we have to open up 5 schools instead of 1. And do I have the staff to do that? And have they been trained? We're working on that too. And I can go on and on.
Yes, sir.
I'm scaring myself right now though. We will get through it because we will get people to help, and I may call you.
Not to teach.
If we get desperate, we're throwing you in there.
My second thing is kind of a statement for the teachers. You had some concerned parents. I can tell you, even with my 5 remaining staff that I had, and I could get emotional over it, we've had some rough days. But the ones of you that choose to stay and do what you love to do, those parents won't have to worry about that because they're going to see that what they didn't learn the year before, they're going to know that year. I have no doubt. I've saw it with my own staff who are credentialed they're not certified. I have no doubt that you guys will do your job. So for the parents who are concerned, don't be concerned about that. That's the least of your worries. These teachers are here for a reason and they'll do it. The second thing is, or the third, and you might have answered this while I was in between doing what I was doing. And correct me, I kind of briefly just read while I was standing here. If a classroom comes, this is more for Department of Health, I think. If a classroom, if a teacher becomes infected or a child in that classroom becomes infected, did I hear and understand correctly that it is then up to the parent to contact their primary care provider or the Department of Health? And if so, why is that so different than what we as child care providers are required to do? Because my fear is you will have a lot of irresponsible people who will not contact and not be tested. So can you kind of explain that a little bit? And I contact you because I appreciate your advice. So.
Okay, so the first thing I would say is I'm a little privy to what took place. So I do know that initially when you started out the summer or prior to the summer, you did not have a mask order in place, correct?
It was up to the teachers.
Right.
Yes, it was.
But then afterwards, did you make it mandatory?
It was mandatory actually around the same time that we came in contact.
Okay. But it certainly helped. Okay. So,
but that didn't, let me be clear that wasn't the deciding factor on having to close a room.
No. Okay. I understand. So, as I said, earlier, the staff in the clinics are DOH employees. And so the information that we are privy to is not the same information that DOE is privy to. So if a student is identified as being ill, DOH has ways to be able to do that tracing. We don't leave it up to you, we leave it up to us. And as I said, we're not going to, obviously pick up the phone and call you and say, little Johnny, has COVID or is being sent for testing, because we have to protect that student's right to privacy. What we do ask for is a line list of who was in that class, and then we identify who was in the immediate vicinity, and then we will contact those parents and let them know. And I'm sure that we will work with the school. It'll be a collaborative effort. But the staff, the DOH staff, can also follow up to see if the parents are following those guidelines.
Right.
It's a little more difficult right now because if we say you are excluded from going out in public, there's not enough of our staff. There's 33 of us total at Hardy County Health Department to man the entire Hardy County to go out and see if people are doing it. But I can tell you that there are people who don't listen and they do go out in public. We can't control that,
right?
But we can control them coming to school.
Right. That was always my biggest fear, was trying to take care of children and my staff. It wasn't them that I was worried about. It was having to count on the other people. The other thing that thought about with that. Oh, I heard that you were speaking of a lot of people return before they get the test results. I was a little confused on that too, because it's my understanding I was told when my staff could return and when the child could return. So is that different for them, that a child can be tested and if they don't have any symptoms in 4 days, they can come back before the test results?
No, I think the point was if a parent takes a child to their provider because they're sick and that provider feels strongly enough that this child could have COVID, that they test them, then we would like the parent to keep the child out of school until that test result is back so that they don't get tested today, return to school for 3 days to then find out that they are positive.
Okay, so is that and again, I apologize, it's probably being repetitive, but if it is they're just going on their goodwill. They were exposed to somebody.
Now, exposure could be different.
Okay.
I was really talking about a child that has symptoms.
Okay. But the school is not aware of if they have those symptoms. I guess I'm just concerned because I was specifically given dates, and I just don't understand why it's so different for school children
Now,
or staff.
Are you talking about dates for when somebody can return?
Return,
Because
if
that's different. So I'm talking about
If
the
they've been
front end.
exposed.
On the back end of, if they've had disease, if they've had COVID, and when can they return, come out of home isolation. And there's a couple of ways to do it per CDC. You can do a symptom-based strategy or a test-based strategy. And a symptom-based strategy is that you have been without fever for 3 days with no fever modulating medications. It's been at least 10 days since onset of symptoms and you're improving. That'll get you out of home isolation by symptoms. The other strategy is using a test, which means that, after 10, 12 days, you get a test, and then you have to have 2 tests separated by at least 24 hours. The problem with that strategy is that when there's testing return delays and it's taken 4 to 5 days between tests, gosh, you could have somebody out of work or school for 3 weeks. And the CDC does not say that one strategy is better or superior than the other.
Right.
So in all honesty, most times I'm recommending, although it's completely up to a business or a school what they're going to require, but it's a whole lot easier to deal with a symptom-based strategy than it is a test-based because of delays in getting test results. But there's no clinically the ability of the methodology to determine who's safe to come back. The CDC does not make a distinction.
But when we were talking earlier and I said something about taking my temperature and Gary said something about temperature, you said not everybody always has a temperature.
Can I give you what I've experienced on that? I keep hearing temperature. Anybody that I've not in the center, I've only had to deal with one and then one parent who had it. No one has had a temperature. The one little boy who I found out, by the way, after the grandparent had been tested positive, was extremely tired. He didn't want to get up from nap. That was the only thing we saw. There was no fever, no diarrhea, no throw up. There was no other symptoms other than he was tired.
Being tired.
So to
There
me,
should be
it's
an
almost a
assortment of-
false.
yeah.
It's like when I was at the YMCA and we did the background or the license check to make sure we had no sexual predators coming in. It's a false sense of security almost to me. You're taking the temperature. You should still do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's almost a false sense of security because there's so many people who are not having those symptoms. I even had a medical provider who oversees this for the hospital whose child comes to our facility tell me that. So, I think you're putting too much emphasis on the temperatures.
And what I was getting at
personally,
was
I'm not a medical.
if you go by symptoms, they may not have that. So do you need
Absolutely.
to go by more than just 1 or 2
Right.
symptoms? You're looking at a group.
Right. And the distinction between our earlier conversation, that was screening. What's effective screening? And you can screen for temperature, but when it comes to, so there's 2 sets of criteria. One is for somebody that tests positive but is asymptomatic. So some people, for whatever reason, they were a contact, they were exposed, they get tested, they feel fine as rain. There's separate criteria for them coming back 10 days after their test because you don't have any symptoms to base a return on. So that's the difference.
And that happens a lot with children, correct?
Yes, it does. Everybody with COVID writes their own story. Some people are sick as stink, fevers, flu type symptoms, and others have nothing.
And to say I'm a fence rider, I'm just going, I am. I ride the fence every day on this situation. But I did have a room of 9 3-year-olds and 1 teacher and 2 staff members that were in there. And this is kind of maybe to settle some fear. Every situation is different. All of them tested negative except for the one little boy who brought it in from his family. Praise God. So, and we all know 3-year-olds are not social distancing. prayers for you all. I hope that, I hope that you all get some rest because you're going to need it. And for the teachers, they're going to do their job. They're going to know who has the symptom and who doesn't before the administration will really. So, thank you.
So we did bring in a screening tool for the summer program. So we don't just take, and I don't say I trained the staff to do it. They do take temperatures, but there's also a screening tool that they use. And so anything that comes up on that screening tool is of concern. And I believe that that's what, I don't know where she went, Teresa, but that's what they used was that screening tool.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's the same screening tool that we would use to screen the children, whatever. that
And any
is.
parent can actually get that
Yes.
online.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily left up to,
Mhm.
I mean, you can get that, so.
Thanks, Jamie. After Brandy, can I ask for a show of hands? After Brandy, do I have some other folks who'd like to comment or come up? If you would, raise your hand. Okay. Are we thinking we're good? Because we're deciding if we're taking a break or if we're going to go on. So that's where I'm kind of wanting to know where we're at. So I have Brandy and two others. Is that correct? So three? Okay. So I think we're going to take a brief break. And then we'll come back at 6:20.
I thought she said the other day that probably one person in this room now. Teresa, tell them there's a game.
Roll out your scroll.
Say their name, so you can quote them in the paper. Names and
I need to go to the bathroom, but I don't know if I want to go in there.
I do too, but there's a line. I'll wait till we start back.
Oh, I should have brought in.
Oh, hardly.
So what does he do?
Can I go with you? I'll buy.
Oh, I think I can see it. Oh, but I don't, we cannot. It was one of the couple factors. We're here just to die. We don't make any
Still win, right? I know it sounds stupid, it's like last week. I don't have an answer right now. I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yes, Sarah, she was there.
It's always easy. Just, oh, it was much uglier. Well,
Thank God I didn't send that.
Here, she's like, yeah, I can see you. So I started making hand motions.
I don't know. Maybe
We're gonna call this workshop back to order. Miss Brandy, you're up.
This can be really fast. It's just a shameless promotion to keep kids in district. But if we do reach a point where a domino effect has happened and 12 teachers are out at the high school, we can't get a sub on a regular day. So if that was to happen and the district decided to close down, the Hilo option would have a program already in place, ready to keep, instruction going. Half of our kids, well, 1/3 of our kids would already be doing it at home every day. Our hybrid kids would know how the system worked already because they're doing it at home too. So all we would have to do is take those 5-day-a-week kids and help them learn how to do it. For elementary, their Hilo teacher would just teach the other teachers how to use what they're doing already, and we'd have a system in place. It's just a plug for what we're doing.
Thank you.
But I did have a mother text in, and she asked for elementary kids, she just wants to understand if this is true, that they have to be online when their teacher is having class.
If they're doing Hilo, that's
If they're
correct.
doing
Yes.
it, yes.
If they're doing Hilo, they have to be online.
They have to log in.
Okay, because I know just as from a parenting standpoint, I know that my district virtual is more difficult and maybe not more rigorous, but it's not our teachers. So she just asked if that was the case, and I guess every kid in elementary and junior high too have to be online when that teacher's teaching, right?
Right, and that came from the commissioner and the chancellor, because in the spring, you know how attendance was really sporadic. We really couldn't monitor it. We don't know who was at class and who was not doing their work. And then FTE is not accurate. So they said, this came from the big guys.
Okay, so parents that are working and their kids are in elementary school, they would have to do my virtual if they don't want to send them to
Right.
school.
Right.
Yes, okay.
Hi, Susan Moy, middle school math. I just know that the students that if they don't see something different in their environment, they're going to behave exactly the same. And I heard Mildred ask about the dust shield, and I asked the nurses, would this possibly be useful? Could it be helpful if the students didn't have the mask on all in class? If they were able, we could see each other, we could hear each other better in class and the instruction, that if we had the dust shields, the sneeze shields. Well, I've done some looking and Googling, and you can get them for less than $20, a DIY with PVC and like the see-through shower curtains and double-sided tape, so you could make them. Well, that doesn't come in till September. So there's no way we could get those in within our time frame. But I've got the materials at the house and just haven't been able to work them out, though. That would probably be less than $25 per kid. And so if we did 12 desks in the classroom, that'd be about $300. And we've already had the community say they would help purchase stuff. Well, if you look into that and you think it would be beneficial, could it be something that maybe the community could help us purchase and get that put into our rooms?
Mosaic, maybe?
Don't put me on that one.
I mean, if we're going to
I'm not
have
going
lower
on the
numbers
record
in
for
our
that.
room and we're social distancing and we have like 12 students at a time in the room, if we did 12 desks, that's less than $300.
It's even cheaper than that. Because I just bought 24 online for $288, and they're like our regular dividers that we have, but they're plastic see-through.
And have windows or something in them.
Yes, it's just plastic see-through dividers.
Well, I already have the dividers in my room, but they'd have to, we could, probably cut them out and put that in there, but they're not very tall. And they're cardboard, and they're going to sustain more of, you're not gonna be able to sanitize them like you could that plastic shower curtain.
Can check.
Thank you.
I'm Brandy Lefebvre, and I'm a teacher for first grade at WES. My question is, in general,
last week I had asked if we were going to be provided hand sanitizer, those things for our classrooms. But Mr. Chairman, you also stated that some of those things we may not get until October.
No, we were talking about technology
Okay,
and the hotspots.
okay,
No, everything's either here or on the way.
okay.
We're gonna have all
We'll
of
have-
that.
Do we really think, I mean, there's a lot of still unknowns, and I mean, there's still a lot of questions that are not being answered. Do we think that we are going to be prepared to provide that safe space for our kids in 3 weeks? I mean, I'm hearing from the health department that it's probably not favorable for our kids to go back now. I know as a teacher, we don't have ample time because we don't have the answers ourselves because you guys can't give them to us. So with us not knowing what you're expecting or how something is supposed to work, and us going back for a week prior to the kids coming in, how are we really technically ready to bring those kids back in a safe, productive environment? Because I don't feel that we are.
The best thing for the state of Florida is if the governor decides that we're going back to phase 1 and that the schools will
You are
not
absolutely,
reopen.
I'm right with you.
Okay, so if we have to open, is that the best thing for our students and the staff? I'm not sure that is.
But I also know, like yesterday, I try not to watch him as often because I get too angry, because he just runs in circles and doesn't answer a direct question. But he did state, they asked him in regards to the schools being forced to be open in August. And yesterday, he stated that basically it is up to the board to finally make that decision, whether it's safe or not.
No, it's not correct. I have an executive order.
I
We
know
are
but he
to
stated
reopen.
that executive order yesterday because somebody was saying that it was confusing to you guys because it wasn't clearly stated.
Everything that's gone on since March, and I said this last week, from the commissioner and the chancellor and the governor, they put out these press releases that they're strongly recommending and encouraging the superintendents and the school boards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When we sit on the conference calls or the Zoom calls or the webinars, it is anything but, and they're quick to point out that this is not a recommendation. You will do it. This is a directive and a mandate. And if you have an issue with that, I won't continue the conversation that we all had. All I'm telling you is how I feel and how the other 66 superintendents feel are not important. Now, I know Broward, Palm Beach, and Dade, they may not open when they're supposed to, but they're in phase 1, so they have that option. If we were in phase 1, we're not opening.
Doesn't Hardy though, because those mayors have put themselves in phase 1 regardless, doesn't Hardy mayor then have the ability to put us back into phase 1 as the county not being safe?
I don't know if it's not the mayor's.
He's right here, mayor.
I don't know the mayor. I've only been here. A couple years, so
It's not the
He is
mayor, I
the
think.
mayor, Yeah.
I believe you. So don't you have the right to put us back?
You want the microphone? Come on up here. Come on. You lie a lot. I know like in Dade, there's over 31 cities. So it must be the county commission with the health department. It could be the governor that made that call. I'm not really sure, but I know they're in phase 1. That's how they're going to get around it. If we're in phase 1, we're not opening, and I'm in favor of that. But putting people back in right now, I don't think we're ready. And what is it going to take for the governor to change his mind when the numbers go up? I'm hoping he has a change of heart. He's getting pressure, I think, from a lot of areas. I know he's getting pressure from the superintendents, but is he listening? I'm hoping in the next week to 10 days, the whole state goes back to phase 1. Everybody's going to have to wear face masks, and we are not going to reopen. And then we'll revisit it maybe in September or October. If Walmart and Kohl's and Starbucks and all those starting Monday, they're going to require face masks, that's a good sign. So I don't see the numbers going down. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just concerned too, because she's sitting here, they're telling us that they only have 3 nurses for 6 schools.
Right.
They have enough on their shoulders now
Yep.
with sick kids, never mind trying to balance 6 schools of children that have possible infections. I'm concerned, and I know a lot of other teachers are, and I'm sorry, I know you guys don't have an easy spot, but I think it's important that you understand and hear from us as well as where our concerns are. You know, and I don't think that we are going to be ready. I mean, I don't think that we're going to physically be ready with our classrooms to be prepared for individual manipulatives. I mean, we don't even have enough manipulatives sometimes for each child to have on their own. So how we're going about that funding, I mean, I know personally, I've gone out already and purchased pencil boxes to make things individual for my kids. I've gone out again today to get individual notebooks and things for them to try and do things that, instead of rotating through the classroom like they normally would, to sit at their desks and do something that is a different type of an activity, kind of, you know, based off of what we're learning. But I mean, it's difficult. And I know a lot of the teachers are taking extra webinars and things like that. And I'm one of them, to try and figure out how to make this work. I just don't see where we're safe and we're ready based on not being able to get answers. And it's not your fault you don't know them. I mean, it's the way it is, but we need the answers and the guidance from you guys, unfortunately.
Our daily conference calls with Tallahassee and the governor and the commissioner have gone away. They're not talking to us anymore. We hear from Jacob Oliva, he's our chancellor, and one of the deputy chancellors. But the others, it's stopped. There's no communication. And we all feel like we're kind of floundering on our own, and we don't feel like we have enough support right now. So it's a bad situation. And I keep looking at the calendar. I need to stop looking at that calendar on my phone.
We're all doing
Because I'm looking, the day that staff comes back, which is the day staff comes back, half of y'all been working at home or at school anyway.
Right.
So, and then the following week, the kids are supposed to come back. Till the first day comes, we don't even know who's coming and who's not coming. Are we going to have 5,000 kids come to school? We're going to have 1,000 kids, and we're going to be scrambling the first 2 weeks till we know who we got, how many we got. It's going to be difficult. And then we have the first day. Okay, so we got numbers. By Wednesday, that first week, it could change completely. People are, oh, there's too many kids. I'm changing my mind. I want my kid to do this. It's a mess. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm thinking, you know, I mean, for the board purpose, you know, that's my personal opinion, is at least with the guideline, because you give to the 23rd, right, for the responses for how they're going to attend school, whether it's in person or the Hilo or whatever.
For high school.
For high school.
Would it not make more sense to wait until we have those numbers, like for solid to know exactly what we're doing, rather than getting those numbers on the 23rd, trying to scramble and put them together, and just give us time to prepare? So that way, at least we can try and make it a little more safe than what it would be right at this point.
And we're going to discuss that.
Okay.
And we're going to look at the numbers, see what we could do, and talk to the chancellor tomorrow.
Well, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have anyone else?
Just me.
I do too. So,
You want Paula to go first?
Yeah.
Mr. Sam?
I just want to go real quick to, I know we'll probably talk about schedule at some point, but sanitation, I know you talked about having the hand sanitizer, et cetera. Again, school supply situation, I know in the past we've had students ask them to bring, are we going to ask they bring Clorox wipes and that kind of thing again?
Can't
I mean,
find
if we're-
them. Can't find
I mean, I
them.
know you can't find them, but say you could find them.
No, we're gonna
supply all those.
We're going to take
type
care of all
materials.
that. We don't ask any student or any teacher. And I know teachers, they
Right, whatever we
they
can
go on the
find.
hunt and find the big bottles of Germex.
Right.
We're going to provide all of that.
Okay. We're going to provide all that for the teachers, and students. Really not students, but teachers to take care of what they need. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I know we can't find them. I can't find them.
Does anybody know where you can find Clorox wipes? We've been looking. Start the bidding.
Not yet. I'm going to wait till we see what he's got to say.
Actually, at home, we've been using baby wipes. Find those.
Yep. Get you a canister of the wipes and just pour the alcohol in.
All right, Mr. Shaman.
That's what I use.
Okay, so I'm going to go last, unless somebody else has a question, an answer or solution. Anybody? No? Okay. So I kind of started on my thought. None of us in this room, nobody in the community has asked for this. We have not been prepared. We've never been through this. This country's never been through this. We are all learning. And I want to say we're doing the best we can. I'm not sure we are. We're trying the best we can. I don't feel good about putting anybody back into school unless I can guarantee their safety. I can't guarantee anybody's safety. I can't guarantee anybody's in the school district, whether you work here or you have a child here. I can't guarantee my own safety. And it's been difficult for the administration. It's been difficult for the teachers and support staff. If you go back to the spring, I mean, remember the food service people being out there and all summer? I mean, couldn't ask more for them. We're trying every way we can, but as I just said, Tallahassee a little bit is ignoring us. They've turned a blind eye. They don't want to deal with the controversy. And we feel like we've been isolated and left on our own to deal with this. And no, we're not prepared. We're going to do the best we can. We're going to talk some more, revise this plan some more, talk about delaying, even if we can give the teachers 2 or 3 more days. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. And I have to talk to finance and we have to look at our numbers. Can we do that? And how many minutes and how many hours? But if we do that, and then we're going to have a dang hurricane this year just to mess everything else up. And it's going to be a bad one. And then say, I hope everybody prayed and I'm wrong. Say we lose 3 days for hurricane. We're going to be out of hours. And now what do we do? So we're going to take all that into account. Yeah, you know what? The schools need about a month more to get ready. If we're up to me and nobody up there in Tallahassee is asking me, I think we start the day after Labor Day. I'm good with that. Take our time, get it right. Everybody's got a bunch of questions. And for everybody to go in the classroom, not be prepared, be nervous and work all weekend and long hours, I know. And we don't have the solution right now. So we're going to revisit this plan, talk about our options. If we can give the staff a few more days, we'll work on that. You can call and email us or just drop in as people do. That's fine. We appreciate your input. We use it all. Well, we use some of it, not all of it. I don't want to say all of it. But we're trying, and I'm doing the best job I can. No, I'm trying to do the best job I can. I take all of this personal. And ultimately, I asked for this job, and I'm responsible for everybody. And don't blame anybody else. And don't blame the administrators or my principals or my directors or the school board. This is all on my shoulders. I will take the responsibility and I will take the blame. If you have issues, you come see me. I will help you try and get through them. It's going to be difficult, but don't blame anybody else out there that's working in the schools, trying their best. If you want to yell and vent, come see me in my office. I'll take that. But ultimately, this is all me, and I'll take the responsibility for this. And if it goes south and it's bad, I'm the one at fault. But everybody else, from teachers and food service and custodians and the school board, they're so tired of talking to me about this. And wherever I go, people want to talk. I don't have the answers. We have some here. Dr. Polk just sent an email out to her staff. So if you're in high school, check your phone. And every sentence, every other word is hypothetical, hypothetical, hypothetical. So we're going to keep plugging along. Work with us. We'll try and work with y'all. Support us. We're going to support you and your kids and everything that's going on. And I think that's enough. I'm done.
I'd like to say thank you for being nice and professional and
I still have something.
as good as you are. You've been great, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Samuel?
Yeah, I know, obviously, we haven't set, I guess August 10th has been discussed, but obviously, we haven't set a specific date, and I know we're talking you'll be looking at some other things, but, and I know a schedule from a perspective of, I know a year-round school schedule, we're not, I want to propose something, and I don't know if it'll work, and maybe we can talk later, propose it, but I'm going to throw it out there is whenever we do start, say you go to school 45 days, take 2 weeks off in the fall, come back 30 days, take Thanksgiving off. At the end of the day, you're taking your 180 days, you're getting 30 days in the summer, 2 weeks at spring break, gives you time to plan again, sanitize, et cetera. But I just throw that out there. It's not year-round school, but it's kind of spreading it out a little more. So I just throw that out there and we can talk about it. So.
Any other board members? Okay, we're adjourning this workshop. Thank you for coming.
Okay, Shaman, you got made me cry. Because you've been nothing but good. Oh, yes, you have. You've been
He's been a good
better
boy.
than most people.
Me and Red.
See you, Mark.
Been nicer than probably ever been.
Man, I wanted to be here till 10. Should have gotten the mayor to say something. Why do you get over and say something?
Teresa, whose kid is that?